The night is low, and the lights in the medical center of S City, which is on the ground, are brightly lit, like a giant wheel that never sleeps, carrying countless lives in the hustle and bustle of the city. In the emergency clinic, the smell of disinfectant mixed with the damp air after the rain, making people unable to breathe. Yongqing rubbed her son whole, leaned against the chair at the guard stand, staring at the duty schedule on the computer screen. She has been working continuously for 12 hours, and her brain is still circulating the complicated liver case of the morning. As a younger generation of top spider cardiac surgeons in the hospital, she was used to this rhythm, but it was raining too heavily tonight, which always gave her a sense of ominous premonition. Sister Yongqing, are you in a daze again? Be careful that the boss calls to urge her to get married. Xiao Wei, the practical nurse next to her, blinked and gave her a cup of hot coffee. Yongqing smiled, took the cup, and came over with a warm face, relieved her fatigue. Don't be so sad, I will deal with it myself. You go check the patients in Area B, and I'll be watching the urgent diagnosis. As the sound fell, a sharp sound of the rescue truck flute suddenly came outside the hall, accompanied by the sharp sound of the wheels rubbing against the ground. The door was pushed open suddenly, and a group of medical staff pushed the racks and rushed in. The rain dripped from their raincoats, pouring water on the ground. The car is seriously injured. Male, about 30 years old, suspected of multiple sexual injuries, unstable blood pressure, and blurred consciousness. The head-in-chief shouted, and the sound was rumbling in the empty corridor. Yongqing immediately stood up and her eyes rose sharply. She walked forward quickly, her eyes swept over the man on the rack. The man's straight suit is now stained with blood, his face is as white as paper, and his wound is still bleeding. The rain slid down his hair, making the clearly silhouetted face even colder. The hospital's supervisors made rapid sounds and their heart rate was in a slight group. Quick, push it to the emergency room of number 3. Notify the director of the cardiac department. The attending doctor, Mr. Li, came over and said that he was wearing gloves. But when he was recently checked, his face changed, the internal bleeding is severe, it may be caused by a rupture of the spleen and pericardial fluid. This situation is too difficult, you need to start the knife immediately. The medical staff around him looked solemn, and the air was filled with a tight breath. Xiao Wei's hand trembled slightly. Who is this patient? He doesn't look like an ordinary person. Yongqing didn't have time to think about it anymore, so she pressed the man's gait with one hand and touched his chest with the other. At that moment, her golden finger activated like a touch. That was the extraordinary she possessed since she was a child. At first glance, the patient's wounds, organs, and even hidden lesions all appeared clearly in the brain like X-rays. A man has 3 tears and injuries in his spleen. The blood under the pericardium forces the heart, and the ribs cleave and pierce the lungs. Multiple dysfunctions are intercourse, and a slight delay is fatal. Wait. Yongqing's voice was calm. She pushed Lao Li's hand and shouted directly to the nurse, prepare the epinephrine and blood bags, and notify the surgery room to prepare a knife. His spleen is ruptured and his pericardial filling is filled. He has a strong lung, so he must first stabilize his heart rhythm and then open his chest. Old Li was stunned and widened his eyes. How did you know? We didn't even do CT. Believe me. Yongqing didn't unbutton her, but just put on her gloves quickly and took action automatically. Her fingers pressed the man's chest like a flash, accurately found the position of her breasts, and inserted a needle to release her breath. The heart rate curve on the guardrail instantly calmed for a few minutes, and the blood pressure began to rise. The medical staff around the world were stunned, and Xiao Wei murmured, "Oh my God, is Sister Qing doing this, a godly operation?" The treatment process is like a sophisticated ballet. Yongqing pointed and said as if she was determined, "Xiao Wei, push 250 cubic centimeters of physiological salt water to monitor the oxygen concentration. Lao Li, prepare for ultrasonic to confirm internal bleeding." The man moaned slightly, his eyes were opened in a blurred state, and his vision fell on Yongqing in a blurred state. Her delicate face looked particularly focused under the shadowless light, her long hair was tied up, revealing her slender neckline, and her blue surgical suit wrapped around her graceful figure. The moisture of the rain made her skin shine like a pear blossom blooming in the rain. 10 minutes later, the man's life became stable. Outside the surgery room, Oldly patted Yong Qing on the shoulder and praised her face. "Xiaoying, your diagnosis is so amazing. You can see through multiple internal injuries at a glance, and it turns the situation backwards. If it weren't for you, we might have lost this big man." Other doctors also came up, talking all over. "Yes, Sister Yong Qing is simply the Dinghai Shenwang of the hospital. The name of a genius doctor is unfair." Yong Qing smiled, took off her gloves, and wiped her sweat. A sense of accomplishment arose in her heart. This is why she loves medicine, not for praise, but for the joy of seeing life pull back from the cliff. But she knew that this was just the beginning. When she opened the ward door, she walked into the VIP supervision room. The man had woken up and leaned against the bed, with a few bits of white on his handsome face, not losing his domineering spirit. "Are you the doctor who saved me?" His voice was low and magnetic, as seductive as a cello. The head was light and checked the instrument. "Yes, I am Su Qing from the Department of Cardiology and Surgery. Your situation is stable, but it still needs to be observed for 24 hours. The man, later she learned from the care card that his name was Zihao, smiled and reached out to hold her wrist. The touch was warm and powerful, which made Feng Qing feel ill. "Thank you, Dr. Su. If it weren't for you, I might have explained it." His eyes were straight, with a sense of heat that could not be ignored. "Your hands are so stable and your eyes are brighter. How could a woman like you be buried in a hospital?" Her face was slightly red, she pulled her hand back, pretending to check the heart chart. "This is my job. Don't be bothered, the wound is not yet in harmony." But her heart was like a deer bumping into her. What is this man's head? Those eyes seemed to be able to see through people's hearts, reminding her of those lonely days that were countless nights. Zihao held on his shoulders and held them tighter. "No, I really mean. You saved my life. From now on, you will be my professional doctor. I only have you to take care of the treatment in the future." Qing was stunned and was about to refuse, but her phone suddenly vibrated. "Mom" was displayed on the screen, and her heart sank and she picked up the phone. "Hey, Mom." "Yong Qing. Are you working overtime again? The family meal will be in the family tomorrow night, remember. That Li family's son has good conditions, executives, annual salary of 1 million. You can't just hold it all in one go, right?" Yeiling's voice was sharp, with unquestionable pressure, like a thorn entering Wei Qing's heart. "I know, Mom. But I'm busy now." Qing glanced at Zihao, and he was looking at her with interest, with a deeper smile on the corner of her mouth. She quit the phone and said, "Sorry, it's at home." Zihao raised his eyebrows and said, "Feel? Look at your unwillingness. A woman is as elegant as you, why should she be wronged?" His words were like a warm current, relieved her worries. Qing sat on the bed, chanted for a moment, and said, "It's not aggrieved, it's, my mother always wants to arrange everything for me. I want to choose myself and pursue my freedom. The doctor's journey is already limited, and I don't want to let go of it in my relationship." She looked at the neon night view outside the window, and a sense of determination creeping in her heart. Perhaps, starting from tonight, she should be brave and face the agitated deer instead of just escaping. Zihao pointed his head and his eyes softened a little. "Then start with me. Dr. Su, give me an opportunity to prove that I won't let it go." His hand stretched out again, and this time it covered her fingertips, and sparks seemed to quietly release in the air. Outside the ward, the sound of rain stopped and the city's movement continued to move forward. And Qing knew that this unexpected encounter might be the starting point of her change. Terms, 1287. The sunlight comes from the floor-to-ceiling windows of the VIP ward, and reflects the spotted light and shadow on the white bed. There is a faint jasmine fragrance in the air, which is a special air freshener made by the hospital. Try to cover the pungent smell of disinfectant. Zihao leaned against the bed, flipping through the financial information on the tablet. His eyebrows were slightly snaking. It has been 3 days since the car, and his wounds fit very quickly, but the feeling of powerlessness is still lying in his heart. He raised his head and looked at the door, looking forward to the familiar blue figure. Wei Qing pushed the door and held the sick trunk in her hand. Her long hair was casually purified into a horse's tail, revealing her fair neckline. She smiled and said, "Good morning, the whole country. Today's round-trip time has arrived." Since shaking hands that day, she has deliberately maintained a professional distance, but there is always a warm current in her heart. Zihao put down the tablet and his eyes lit up. "Dr. Su, you finally came. I thought you would avoid me." "Avoid? This is my duty." Qing approached the bed and checked his wound. Her fingers touched his arm lightly, and the touch was actually powerful, which made her heart beat. Zihao seized the opportunity and held her hand. "What about you besides your job? I heard your mother's phone yesterday. Is it very powerful? Women should have their own choices like you." Qing pulled her hand back and pretended to focus on the auditor. "All the way, don't be disturbed. Your heart rate is a little fast." But she didn't deny it. These days, Zihao has always been like this, actively asking her to check every day and refuse other doctors to intervene. The hospital has been revealed, and the mysterious boss's partiality towards genius doctors has made Xiao Wei and the others gossip. On the first day of the rounds, it was still a routine: measure blood pressure and listen to heart sounds. Zihao cooperated very well and always looked for a call. "Dr. Su, your surgery knife is so stable, how do you practice it in normal times? Yoga or a piano?" Qing smiled and said, "I don't have it, just look and touch more. There is no shortcut for the doctor." But gradually, the conversation went deeper. The next day at noon, the sun was warm at noon, and the birds and the low roars of the remote cars came outside the window. After changing the medicine, Yongqing sat on the chair beside the bed and rested for a while. Zihao suddenly opened his mouth. "Do you know? Before the car that day, I was coming out of the conference room. The Imperial Group's merger was stuck at the last moment, and the old foxes stared at me, like a sterile wolf. The pressure was so strong that they couldn't sleep, and their brains were still turning when they opened the car." His voice was low, carrying rare fatigue. The domineering president in his daily life is now like a warrior who has taken off his armor. Qing was stunned for a moment, not expecting that he would share these. She put down her sick trunk and said lightly, "The business empire heard the light, and the pressure behind her is quite large. After a wrong decision, thousands of people smashed the bowl. You have a greater responsibility than my job." Zihao turned to her head and looked deep. "Do you understand? What about you? What about the medical world? Are you tired when you fight with the god of death every day?" Qing sighed and looked at the cityscape with high buildings outside the window. "I'm tired. Last night, I was on duty. A patient with advanced cancer took my hand and said, 'Doctor, save my child.' I obviously had the best efforts, but I could only relieve the pain. And the hospital's KPI, the pressure of the industry, always felt like a machine," she said, and a soreness sensation surged in her heart. Over the years, she has buried her medical school to prove herself and slap her shackles in her home. But Zihao's words were like a long light, shining into her fatigue. "So, you need rest. You need someone to accompany you." Zihao's voice softened a little, and he reached out and gently swept the back of her hand. "Dr. Su, from that day on, you have not been a simple doctor. You saved me, not only your body, but also your heart." Her face was sunny and she got up and wanted to leave. She heard the voice of the assistant outside the door. "Old, the thing is delivered." The assistant pushed the door in, carrying an exquisite gift box in his hand, wrapped in a silk bag, flashing with a low-key luxury shiny. Zihao let his assistant retreat and turned to Yongqing. "Let's open and see, thank you for your life-saving kindness." Yongqing's watch was dismantling the box, and there was a diamond ring lying inside, with blue stones on the fine links, just like stars in the night sky. The touching hands are cold and warm. She widened her eyes. This is too expensive and heavy, I can't accept it. The hospital has regulations. Zihao pulled her down domineeringly. Provisions? There is no one here in me. Put it on and try it. He stood up and put it on from behind. The fingertips slid over her neck, bringing silk current. In the lens, the crocodile makes her look more elegant, like a spirit walking out of the urban forest. When Qing touched the stone, her heart was moved. This was her never-before luxury, sweet as honey, melting her guardian of free love. Perhaps, love should have such surprises, rather than the boring scene arranged at home. Do you like it? Zihao asked in a low voice, his breathing spraying on her ears. The sunny sounded like a mosquito, and the sound was as small as a mosquito. Thank you, but I really... Zihao stopped her. It's my intention to accept it. After being discharged from the hospital, I'll ask you to have a meal as a reply. The atmosphere changed during the afternoon rounds. Qing was wearing a croaker and always touched her. Zihao saw it in his eyes and smiled deeper. Suddenly, her golden finger activated again. During the inspection, she glanced at Zihao's focal picture. Although the wound was compatible, there was a sign of mild infection in the lungs. If not treated, it may cause pneumonia complications. After a tight heart, she immediately called the nurse. Prepare antibiotic static installation, dosage of 200 milligrams, once every 8 hours. Notify the chemical laboratory for blood checking. Zihao browsed. What's wrong? Isn't my injury stable? Qing explained. You have potential infection risk. I predicted that if you don't care, it will turn into pneumonia. It can be avoided by dealing with it in time. Old Li heard a message and was surprised after the inspection. Xiao Wang, your diagnosis is amazing again. CT may not be so accurate. Zihao stared at her, his eyes turned from surprise to reliance. Dr. Su, you always save me invisible. From now on, I can't live without you. After the crisis was resolved, Zihao's dependence deepened. He took her hand and said, after discharge, let's have dinner together. We are only two, no pressure, no game. Only you and me. Qing was moved, and turned from a passive response to the initiative point. Okay, I'll answer. But it's not a reply, it's, I want to hear you tell more of those empire stories. As he was talking, the mobile phone started. It was Lin Xiaoqing, the honey in the entertainment circle. Qing picked it up and walked to the stage. Qing, what's wrong? Qing. Guess what I heard? The hospital's car is Lu Zihao. The president of the Empire Group, the sponsor who invested in my new drama. He asked you to check rounds every day. Is there any trouble? Xiaoqing's voice was very excited. The background was the noise of the film, and the director's shouting was tangled. Qing read her face and said in a low voice, don't say anything, we're just medical treatment. Xiaoqing laughed, medical treatment? Sister, your golden finger saved him, he must have been wearing a mat. What's wrong with Haoman? I've seen Zihao, who is domineering but has short-lived protection. Seize the opportunity and exorcise your mother's curse. Isn't it like free love? Next time I come to the scene, I'll help you explore his bottom. After closing the phone, Wang Qing felt bravery in her heart. Xiaoqing's words resolved her sympathy for Haoman, or maybe Zihao was not a shackle, but a wing. The family pressure faded slowly. She looked at herself in the mirror, her slim, and decided to take the initiative to respond to this concern. At night, the ward lights are soft, and neon lights outside the window are like woven. Zihao looked at her leaving her back and sneered on the corner of her mouth. Dr. Su, see you tomorrow. Qing turned her head and smiled. Well, the whole world. Get up early, we are waiting for dinner. Although the ignorance is like the fragrance of flowers in the air, it warms quietly. She walked out of the hospital, and the night wind blew her face. with the smell of freedom. Tomorrow, that family event may be unexpected, but now, she just wants to embrace this new life sweetness. Number of words, 1268. The sun is still on the Linqi Road in City S. The car is flowing like a car, and the sound of horns is coming one after another. Yongqing sat in the back seat of the pedestal car, her fingers unconsciously touching the blue stone croaker on the croaker. The fingertips that looked like Zihao's fingertips always made her feel distracted. The hospital's shift was over. She wanted to go home and take a bath to relieve her fatigue for the past few days, but her mother's phone came 3 times, and her language turned from urging to threatening. Yongqing, if you dare not come, don't you recognize it in this family? What a good condition is the Li family. You can't just use the machine to save lives, right? She sniffed and rubbed her eyebrows. Zihao's invitation was still in his ears, and the sentence, "Our dinner is waiting," was like candy, so sweet. But it was always cool, and the family's shackles dragged her forward again. The car parked at the entrance of a high-end Chinese restaurant, and the golden and blue signs shone under the lights, and the doorboy respectfully opened the door. The fragrance of osmanthus flowers in the air is mixed with the faint smell of the tail of the car, making Yongqing's stomach uneasy. Open the door and the enthusiastic laughter comes. The long table was covered with snow-white tablecloths, and the soft light under the crystal hanging lights reflected a table of rich dishes, red abalone fish, crab yellow soup bags, hot and fragrant. As soon as his mother Yaling saw her, she got up and pulled her to sit down, and smiled on her face. "Come on, Yongqing, this is Mr. Li Mingxian, the vice president of a high-tech company. Her annual salary is impressive and she is also angry." The middle-aged man next to her, Father Li, echoed, and looked at Yongqing's body, as if he was evaluating a product. Li Minghua is 28 or 9 years old, with a straight face and a straight smile that looks like an advertising model. He stood up and shook hands. "Miss Su, I have long admired her reputation. I heard that you are a genius doctor, it's so bad." His hand was not light or heavy, his eyes wandered, and he was slightly stunned by the way over her horn. Yongqing smiled pretty and was absent-minded when she sat down. The brain was full of the hospital's supervisor's voice and Zihao's deep eyes. Dislike each other? What is this, the old code of a blind marriage? She snatched the fish meat and chewed it mechanically, and the taste was as light as white water. Yaling noticed that she was absent-minded and said, "Yongqing, be serious. The Li family and us have business dealings, this is a double bonus. You can't let my mother down, right?" The pressure came like a tide. Yongqing's chopsticks were stolen. Just as she was about to open her mouth, the door was suddenly pushed open, and a storm came in, scattering the smell of soil after the rain outside. Several men wearing ties came in, and Zihao was the leader. He was dressed in dark blue and made-up suits, and his head was relaxed and collapsed, so strong that the whole scene was calm. Yaling's eyes lit up and she stood up to meet her. "General. Why did you come here? This is our family's private meal, you are a treasurer." Zihao had a slightly tall head, and his eyes swept over the crowd on the table, and he was fixed on Yongqing. Time seemed to freeze, and his eyes flashed with surprise and playfulness. "Dr. Su. What a coincidence." Yongqing's heart thumped, and the chopsticks almost fell. "Zihao? Here." She subconsciously touched the necklace and her face became burnt. It turns out that this is not a simple relationship, but a grand gathering of business marriages. The cooperation case between the Empire Group and the Li family made Zihao an unexpected privilege. Yaling was stunned for a moment and quickly introduced, "General, this is my daughter, Yongqing, and she is chatting with Mr. Li." You sit, you sit." Li Mingqi also stood up and smiled stiffly. "General, I haven't seen it for a long time. I will give you some advice on the last purchase." Zihao ignored him and directly pulled the chair next to Yongqing and sat down, and acted naturally like the master. The air was filled with embarrassing force, and the sound of chopsticks colliding became harsh. Shaoqing lowered his head, and felt all his eyes focused on her, his heart beat like a drum. Dr. Su, we meet again. Zihao spoke in a low voice, only she heard the sound, with a silly chanting, I didn't expect your family festival to be so hot. Are you good friends? Senior executives, annual salary of 1 million. His eyes swept over Li Mingxian, and a mocking curve appeared on the corner of his mouth. Li Ming's face changed slightly, and he tried to insert the picture, General, do you know Miss Su? Zihao turned his head and held the video domineeringly, of course, we are old friends. Dr. Su saved my life, and he is skilled in medicine, and he is more beautiful. Ming, don't you mind me chatting with me 2 more sentences, right? The whole scene was quiet. Yeling widened her eyes, looked at her daughter and Zihao, and her brain was buzzing. Li's father coughed in embarrassment, Yin Zhong laughed. Yongqing is a doctor, and our Li family respects it too. But Zihao didn't give him a chance. He turned to Yongqing with his eyes straight, remember the dinner I said before I was discharged from the hospital? It will be in advance tonight. Dr. Su, your heart and electronic picture inspection is much more interesting than this game. His words were like a light punch, which dissolved the embarrassment, which made Li Ming's smile collapse. The boy smiled embarrassedly, since the world always has old friends, I won't be upset. Miss Su, let's talk again if you have any trouble. As he said, he got up and left the seat, walking in a hurry, as if he was running away from the battlefield. Yeling was shocked by the chopsticks falling, and she whispered, Yongqing, what's going on in this? What happened to the world? When did you know each other? Xiaoqing red face, and a warm current surged in her heart. Zihao's intervention was like a temporary rain, and the charm of protection made her heart move. Before, she always tolerated her voice and now she wanted to try to resist. Mom, this is not the point. Mr. Li is good, but I don't want to be blind when it comes to this kind of thing. I should choose my own feelings, not business. Her voice was not loud, and she was determined, and she looked straight into her mother's eyes for the first time. Yeling opened her mouth and her face turned from shock to complexion. You changed, you were sunny. You never had a mouth full before. Zihao put on the side and smiled softly, Auntie, Dr. Su is a genius and has an independent attitude. He has no desires, so let her fly. The game continued, but the atmosphere changed. Everyone ate food with their heads down and occasionally spoke in private. The eyes of Qing and Zihao were constantly in exchange for each other, like soundless current. Once, he put a piece of crab meat into her bowl and said in a low voice, Miss Doctor, eat something to nourish your body. Your golden fingers are tired of saving people. Qing glared at him, and her red face turned back. So long, are you talking about the patient? Be careful that my hands tremble when I open the knife. Her voice was gentle, with playfulness, and her heart was as sweet as honey. From the distance between medical patients to the current seclusion, she felt like a scattered butterfly, with her wings gradually spreading. Suddenly, the phone vibrated. It was Lin Xiaoqing's message, Qing. Did you hear that you are going to meet? Don't be afraid, sisters support you. I have heard that Lu Zihao, single, give women one by one. Be brave, throw away your mother's curse, pursue your free love. I'll help you visit the set in the film. Xian Qing looked at the screen, smiled, and replied, Thank you, Xiaoqing. I was surprised today, I will say later. Xiaoqing's encouragement was like a kind of heartwarming reminder, which made her more assured. In the game, she was no longer absent-minded, but instead took the initiative to chat with Zihao about interesting things in the hospital. General, do you know? After the car that day, my mother thought I had been working overtime. Now that I think about it, fate really makes a joke. Zihao's eyes were soft. Yes, I can't escape you from urgent examinations. Dr. Su, you saved me, now I'm going to protect you. His words touched his heart, and Qing's heart turned. From now on, she was afraid of conflicts and her mother's disappointment. But tonight, Zihao's appearance allowed her to see the brave price, not isolation, but support. The feeling of initial control was like taking off 1,000 pounds of weight. She even smiled and said to Yaling, "Mom, I will come to you myself for your future relationship. Don't worry about it." When the festival was over, it was already dark. The streets were wet after the rain, and neon lights reflected in the water, sparkling. Yaling was angry, and before pulling Yongqing on the car, she looked at Zihao more. "President, thank you for tonight." Zihao pointed at her head and turned to Yongqing. "I'll take you home. Miss Doctor, don't refuse." His private car parked at the door, with a low black car body and a low and powerful engine sound. Inside the car, the warm air-conditioned wind blew away the night's mood, and the leather seats were soft like clouds. Zihao opened the car, and his face was clearly marked under the road lights. "Have you been relieved tonight's meeting?" Yongqing leaned against the window and smiled. "Well, thank you. I didn't expect you to appear, like a writer saving the beauty." Zihao held the direction plate in his hand and touched her with the other hand. "It's not rescue, it's instinct. From that day of the hospital, I have wanted to do this. Dr. Su, give us an opportunity to prove that I am not a business in the food hall, but your choice." Yongqing's heart beat faster, and she looked at the lights flying outside the window, and her heart was filled with expectations. The car parked under her apartment building, the air after the rain was fresh and the fragrance of jasmine flowers was scattered. Zihao got off the car and opened the door for her. "Good night. Tomorrow, see the movie. Shaoqing invited me, I invest in that drama." When Qing pointed at the head and stepped out of the car door, she turned around and smiled. "Okay, the whole world. Looking forward to your protective. On the door, the lights went away. She stood at the entrance of the stairs, touching the crocodile, and felt that the world suddenly became wide. Tomorrow, perhaps the beginning of a new chapter. Terms, 1246. The morning light penetrated the apartment slut into the bedroom, and Yongqing rubbed her sleepy eyes and sat up from the bed. Last night's wedding scene was like a dream. Zihao's car lights flashed in the sea of brain, accompanied by his sentence, "Looking forward to your protection." She touched the ring, and the blue stone shone under the sun, as warm as his palm. But she was pulled back quickly. The door rose quickly, accompanied by the shouting of her mother Yaling, "Yongqing. Open the door, I know you are at home." Yongqing sighed and put on her nightgown to open the door. As soon as Yaling came in, she threw off her high heels and looked bright. "Say, what happened to Lu Zihao last night?" Everyone in the audience looked at him, and you looked at him, and Mr. Li slipped away in shame. "Have you hooked up with him long ago? Our family doesn't have that kind of capital climbing Haoman." Her voice was sharp, like a knife, plotting on Yongqing's heart. In the living room, the ticking sound of the coffee machine contrasts with the birds outside the window. The air is filled with the fragrance of breakfast, which cannot conceal the smell of the fire. Yongqing poured a glass of water and sent it to her mother, as calm as possible. "Mom, it's not a hookup. He is my patient, I saved him. Last night was a coincidence that he invested in the Li family's project, and it appeared." Yaling took the water cup, but didn't drink it, stared at her daughter. "Patient? Life-saving benefactor? Why did he protect you? He also sent you home. Yongqing, you are a doctor, don't be stupid. The kind of person in the Chinese family is just a playful thing. What should you do if you hurt you? Young Master Li is still stable, and the door is right." Her eyes were complicated, and she was confused and worried, which made Yongqing's heart sank. "Mom, I'm not a product." Yongqing's voice calmed down. She sat on the sofa and looked at her mother for the first time. "I've gone to see you, but I don't like Mr. Li Zihao. General, he made me feel respected, not business. Is it okay to give me space?" Yaling was stunned, and wanted to rebel. Seeing the determination in the daughter's eyes, she sighed. "You child, you have always been stubborn. Now you are better, and you don't hear your mother's words. But remember, the water is deep in the Haoman, don't fall into it." She stood up and left, patted Qing's shoulder. "Come back at noon and have a meal, and my mother will make you red and boiled meat. Don't work overtime all the time, women also need to pay attention." Closed on the door, Yongqing slid to the ground against the wall, and a complex feeling surged in her heart. My mother's quality was like a shackle, but last night's courage made her feel free. Since then, she has always been in harmony and now she wants to try to take off. The phone was shocked, and Lin Xiaoqing's message jumped out, Qingqing. Did you hear the news last night at the food court? Lu Zihao opened his wife and the sisters were so envious. The film invitation came to the scene. The drama he invested in welcome you to play. At 3 p.m., I will see it in the makeup. I will help you find his bottom, and it will be sweet. Xianqing smiled and replied, Okay, Xiaoqing. Thank you for supporting me. Guanmi's encouragement was like an antidote, which changed the pressure of the family from resistance to help. She decided to go to the scene and no longer escape. The corridors of the hospital are as busy as ever, with the smell of disinfectant in the air sensation and smearing the bitterness of coffee. When Xiaoqing changed into a white coat and just entered the department, she felt that the atmosphere was not right. Several colleagues talked about private words, with strange eyes. Old Li came over and said in a low voice, Xiao, something happened. The patient who had a heart valve replaced last month was on the door and said that the disease after surgery was a medical accident and he wanted to sue the hospital. The leader was Vice President Wang of the surgery department. He was eyeing you and said that there was any error in your diagnosis. Qingqing felt nervous. In that case, she used her gold finger to confirm that there was no error. After surgery, she infected the pure patient's body quality. But Vice President Wang has always been jealous of her name of genius, and this time it was difficult to borrow. In the meeting room, the lawyer was wearing a pen and swaying his hands. The patient pointed at Qingqing and said, It's you. A genius doctor. I've made my father halfway through his body and pay for money. Vice President Wang, Yin Yang, was surprised. Dr. Su is young, but he has insufficient experience. The hospital has to be responsible for this matter, otherwise it will affect his reputation. Zhou Xiang's colleague was low and his air was as heavy as a pen. Qingqing took a deep breath and opened her mouth. My family, I understand your pain. But preoperative examinations have confirmed that the infection is caused by postoperative care and patient-based disease, not a diagnosis failure. I can provide a complete record. But the family refused to follow. And the lawyer sneered, record? Who knows if there is any fraud? The media is all staring at it. The anecdote of a genius female doctor is so eye-catching. Just as Feng Qing was sweating, the door was pushed open, and a pair of leather shoes sounded loudly. Zihao strode forward, and the assistant followed behind, holding the file holder in his hand. His appearance was like a gust of wind, and the conference room was instantly calm. The family was stunned, and Vice President Wang's face turned pale. Yun, why are you here? Zihao looked at the whole scene, his eyes fell on Qingqing, his eyes were gentle and calm. He walked forward and held her hand, and the public announced, because Dr. Su is my life savior. The Empire Group has in-depth cooperation with this hospital, and I will not let villains borrow opportunities to cause trouble. The whole scene was breathing in a hurry. Vice President Wang Huiba, General, this is an internal medical dispute, you. Zihao turned around and was forced to the scene, internal. Vice President Wang, do you think I don't know? Behind this family, there is a promoter of competing with the hospital, and they want to invest in medical investment in the empire. I have experienced the diagnosis of Su's doctor, but I am indecisive. He turned to his family, and the assistant submitted a document. This is an investigation by the Imperial Legal Team and a complete symptom certificate. The hospital will compensate, but if it is too big, your lawyer's office will be singled out. A signed settlement, or will it be seen in court? The family's face was green, the lawyer was low, and Vice President Wang retired in awkwardly. The crisis was resolved cleanly and neatly. Zihao pulled Qingqing out of the conference room, and the sunlight from the hospital hall was on his shoulder, as if he was wearing a layer of golden armor. My heart beat like a drum, and a warm current surged in my heart. The feeling of being protected has never been so real. Thank you, the whole world. If it weren't for you, I might. Zihao stopped and turned to look at her. Call me Zihao. Miss Doctor, you were so brave when you saved me, and now you are here to me. From now on, I will be the villain in the field. His words touched his heart, and Yongqing's dependence deepened. From gratitude to dependence, it was only one step away. Old Li and the others came up and praised, "Little Silhouette, with the support of the whole country, your future is unreliable." Vice President Wang's gray face turned away from the villain's pleasure, which made Yongqing feel the warmth of power for the first time, not pressure, but protection. At noon, the park near the hospital was green, and the willow trees on the lake were lightly blowing, and the wind blew the fragrance of flowers. Zihao asked her to take a walk, and the two walked on the stone shoulder to avoid the noise. Yongqing's pace was light and fast. She removed her white coat, leaving only a simple shirt and denim pants, and the crocodile was flashing under the sun. "I really thank you for what happened today." She opened her mouth with a soft voice. Zihao smiled and stopped in the bench at the lakeside. "No thanks. I have been used to protect the people I care about. When I was a child, my family was in a big business and my parents were busy. I was alone in the mansion, as lonely as a shadow. I learned to be domineering in order not to harm me around me." Yongqing was stunned, not expecting that this president had such a childhood. She sat down and opened her heart. "I understand. I have that kind of loneliness, too. Mom always arranges everything, and looks at the future, as if she is keeping me in the skull. As a doctor, I just want to prove myself and pursue freedom. It's not money, but space in my heart." Z turned his head with deep eyes. "Free? Then we are. My domineering is not control, but fear of losing. Last night's festival, I thought you would escape, but I didn't expect you to bravely fight back to your mother. Su Qing, you are becoming stronger. The mistake will dissipate like clouds." It turns out that his pursuit was not a sudden rise, but a true sacred bird. Yongqing's heart turned around, from an awkward medical condition to taking the initiative to embrace this love. She stood up and said lightly, "Zihao, I won't run away. From the hospital to the hospital, and then to now, I choose you. It's not the benefactor, it's my choice." Zihao stood up, opened his arms, and slapped her into the trap. The lake wind blew over, his chin against her hair, his warm breathing mingled, sweet as honey melted into the air. Yongqing closed her eyes and felt the world was stable. This was the mark of her growth, no longer escaping, and bravely embrace it. After hugging, the two continued walking, touching their fingers lightly, like a soundless promise. The phone was resounding again, Lin Xiaoqing's voice, "Qingqing. The film is ready, Zihao's assistant just confirmed, come and visit the set. He said, I want to show you his investment world. Sister, come on. This is your reverse moment." Xianqing smiled and said to Zihao, "Shiqing urged me. Go to the film in the afternoon." Zihao pointed his head and his eyes lit up. "Let's go, I'll start the car." "Miss Doctor, are you ready to see the other side of the entertainment circle? From today on, I will protect your freedom together." The bell in the park hit 3 points, and the two walked towards the parking lot. Zihao's car engine growled low and drove towards the scene. Yongqing leaned against the back of the chair and looked at the scenery flying outside the window, thinking, the pressure of the family is no longer a shackle, but a force that pushes her forward. The love is here, she is ready. The lights on the scene flashed far away, waiting for their new adventures. The noise of the scene was like a boiling porridge, the air was filled with the powdery aroma of the cosmetics, the fresh smell of props and the sound of the coffee machine far away. The film base outside S-City was in full swing, and the red lights of the camera were on the camera, and the director's shouts came one after another, "Action! Xiaoqing, your eyes are cruel, this is a revenge." Yongqing followed Zihao from the parking lot, holding the hot iron he had come from in her hand, and the steam rose, warming her palm. The sunlight shone under the light rack at the top of the shed, and spots shone on her white shirt, making the blue stones flash. "This is my investment project," the blockbuster of urban night. Yongqing is the heroine. I took advantage of her potential and threw 5 million in. Zihao explained in a low voice, and his hand naturally put on her waist, making his movements look stubborn and unstoppable. Yongqing's heart beat slightly faster, and she looked around. The extras were running around, and the assistant shuttled through the playbook. In front of the green screen, Lin Yongqing was wearing a red dress, with long hair flying, and was acting in the mirror. The heat of the scene made her forget the smell of disinfectant in the hospital at a while. This is another world, and the light and freshness are also very stressful. Suddenly, a figure came over, and Lin Yongqing hugged Yongqing panting, as if she had won the lottery. Yongqing. You are here. Wow, the whole country is always taking it, sister, I have face. Yongqing's makeup is exquisite, her lips are red and white, but there are sweat beads on her head, and the skirt is still stained with a little dust. She took Yongqing's hand and said, I heard about the game last night. Zihao's carefree sex is absolutely true. Today is a casual play, I'll take you around. Zihao smiled and patted Yongqing's shoulder, don't be so sad, the movie has not been finished yet. Yongqing is a guest, so arrange the spot. The three of them walked around and chatted, and the busyness of the film came like a tide. Yongqing complained, this slap made me feel sore in my waist and back. Yesterday, I fell down my head and my ankle was broken for half a circle. The director also urged me, the entertainment circle is just a large dye vat, beautiful and exhausting. When Yongqing heard it, her eyes unconsciously swept Yongqing's feet. The two high heels stepped on the ground, limping slightly. They stopped outside the makeup room, and a group of actors were resting, smiling, and scattering. Did you hear that the investor boss is here and bringing a female companion? That girl looks so familiar, is she a doctor? Taking advantage of the empty space, Yongqing entered the temporary rest shed. The light in the shed was soft, and the fan moved, blowing away the heat from the outside. Zihao leaned against the door, crossed his arms to his chest, watching her chat like an old friend. Yongqing, why are you so tired? If you don't pay attention to the shooting, it will be irritating if you hurt your muscles and bones. Yongqing curled her lips and took off her shoes and rubbed her ankles. You are a little injured, just bear it. Yongqing, you are a doctor, can you help me take a look? Yongqing squatted down and gently touched Yongqing's ankle. Just as the fingertips touched, her golden finger activated like current. Clear images appear in the sea of brain, slightly twisted, fluid tissue congestion, and no damage to the belt, but if not treated, it will affect walking. She smiled and said, don't rub it, this will aggravate the blood stasis. Come on, I will help you massage and clear it and cooperate with hot application, it will be fine in 3 days. She practiced her skills, and her fingertips were pressed gently along the wire, with no strength or heavy force, as if she was smoothing a pond of spring water. Yongqing shouted and immediately felt comfortable. Wow, Yongqing, you are absolutely crazy. It's much stronger than the massage theater on the scene. It's hot and there's no pain. The surrounding actors were silent and came to watch. A young female supporting role widened her eyes. Dr. Su. That genius in the hospital. Oh my god, please help Sister Yongqing to see me. I had a wound on my back last night. Another male actor also felt hot. I have a headache and it has a lot of pressure. Look. Yongqing did not recommend it, checked it one by one, swiped it with her golden finger, and gave a simple suggestion, press the acupoints and pour the foot in hot water. Her movements were clean and neat, without any airs, and the scene suddenly became popular and praised. Dr. God. This diagnosis is more accurate than the instrument. Sister Yongqing, your vagina is so awesome, please introduce it to our circle. Zihao stood aside, watching Yongqing being held by the stars, and the smile on her lips could not hide her pride. He strode forward, grabbed her hand, and said to everyone with a loud voice, everyone, this is my girlfriend, Su Qing. A genius doctor, not only saves people, but also sends people. Who has a minor problem, it's okay to find her. Everyone was stunned, and immediately burst into tears and raised their hands. Wow, General Manager of the Road has announced. Congratulations, it's so sweet. Yongqing blinked. He smiled with a bad eye. I guessed it long ago. Qingqing, sisters support you. Haomen reversed, start from the film. Qingqing's face was red to her ears and glared at Zihao. Who said I am a girlfriend? Let me introduce it. But her heart was as sweet as honey. Zihao's domineering declaration was like a stimulus, allowing her to cross the world from the professional circle of doctors. The sweet atmosphere is full of anime, and the actors come with fruits and drinks. The scene is busy, and there is a warm and comfortable fit. While the next scene had not started, Zihao said to Yongqing in a low voice, "Arrange to the private lounge, I will chat with Yongqing." Yongqing pointed at him and led them through the pile of props and came into a secret tow truck. The interior is airy and comfortable, the sofa is soft, and the windows are pulled up to prevent the noise from the outside. On the table are fresh fruit plates, strawberries are red and fragrant. After Zihao closed the door, La Fengqing sat down and gave her a bunch of grapes. Are you tired? The scene is in chaos, but it is still quiet here. Thank you for helping Yongqing. She is my key investment, and I will be in trouble if I get hurt. Fengqing bit her grapes, and the juice was sour, which relieved the dryness of her throat. She looked at Zihao with soft eyes. Not tired, it's interesting to see the world you invest in. Behind the entertainment circle, the pressure is quite strong, right? It's like Yongqing, with a bright surface, and you have to endure the wound. Zihao leaned on the sand, relaxed his lead, showing a really tired smile. Yes, I forced me to take over from my small family. The Empire Group is like a mountain, which makes me breathless. Investing in this drama is to try a new territory and balance life. But always a workaholic, a dream. Maybe it's someone you care about, go to a place that doesn't have pressure and enjoy it purely. When Yongqing heard it, his heart felt soft. She put down the grapes and approached him. Balance is very important. You domineeringly protect me, and I want to remind you too. Work is the empire, and life is yours. Like today, casual chats on the scene are much more interesting than meeting rooms. I support your dreams. Maybe, starting with a small trip. Her words were like spring, blowing away the haze in his eyes. Zihao turned his head, gazing at her affectionately, his eyes like stars. Yongqing, you understand me. From that day in the hospital, you have not been a doctor, but my light. Feelings have risen. No, we are already together. He reached out and slapped her face, rubbed his thumb against his lips, and sparks seemed to burst into the air. Qingqing did not retreat, and she took the initiative to rely on him, listened to her heartbeat, and felt each other's dreams and intercourse. This was the sweetness of growth. She was no longer just being pursued, but actively guarded his fragility. When the stock is in stock, the phone vibrates and the screen shows, Mom. Qingqing was angry and answered, Hey, Mother. Yaling's voice came, and she was alert during the trial. Qingqing, where are you? The hospital said you asked for a leave of absence. Hearing that you went to the film and was against that, Zihao. My mother is not against it, but Haomen is complicated. Don't fall into it stupidly. Or think about the stable masterly. The intimate control in her words made Qingqing's heart slightly tight. But she remembered the courage of the game, took a deep breath, and responded, Mom, I know you are good for me. But feelings are my own business. Zihao is not a play, he respects me and supports my freedom. It is not suitable to see me trying. Is it okay to give me space? I will go home often in the future, but the decision was with me. After the phone was silent for a moment, Yaling was angry. You have grown up, and my mother will not be careless. But be careful, my mother will wait for you to come back and chat. After the break, Yongqing relaxed her voice and felt an independent joy in her heart. Facing the family, she no longer retreated, but faced her directly. This was her change. Zihao heard the whole process and kissed her head. Brave, Miss Doctor. You handled it better than I expected. I understand the pressure of the family. From now on, we will carry it together. The air in the lounge was warm and the shouting of the room outside the window was transmitted, like the background music, adding a layer of romance to their secrets. Zihao suddenly smiled, his eyes flashing mysteriously. I was surprised when I was traveling. After the filming, the private aircraft was ready to go to a place where no one was disturbed. On the sea? Or in the mountains? Your choice. Yongqing felt heartbroken and leaned on his shoulder. Back to the sea, listen to the sound, forget about the trouble. Zihao pointed at her and said, okay, that's it. The romantic climax begins now. Outside the carriage, Yongqing shouted, Qing, Zihao. You will come and play the role of the next scene. The two of them smiled at each other and stood up and left. The lights on the scene remained the same, but the pace of Yongqing was even lighter and faster. Travel suggests like a seed, quietly taking root, waiting for release. The noise of the film was like a tide, and the buzzing sound of the camera and the footsteps of the extras were combined, with the bitter aroma of coffee and the faint burnt smell of prop smoke in the air. Yongqing's shouting fell, and Zihao turned on Yongqing's hand, and the two walked out of the car, and the sun shone on them in a dazzling way, raising the shadow. Yongqing's face was still left with the warmth that she had just embraced, and her heartbeat was not completely calmed down. She glanced at Zihao, the smile on the corner of his mouth was as bright as the sun, and there was a tight slit that made her unable to help but hold his fingers lightly. Let's go, Miss Doctor, make a guest appearance. Zihao said in a low voice, with a hymn in his voice, don't be nervous, just walk 2 steps and wear it as a passerby. Yongqing was leading the way, flying in a red skirt, and blinked as she walked, you're holding hands, this lens is so sweet. Director, give a special photo. The director laughed and said, okay, the general story, of course, add information. Yongqing, you interact with the heroine, Sister Qing is the background beauty. During the break, the 3 of them rested on the folding chair beside the prop shed. The fan on the top of the shed was whistling, blowing away the heat in the afternoon. In front of the green curtain far away, the lighter busy adjusting the concentrated lights. Yongqing wiped her sweat and gave Wenqing a bottle of mineral water. Qing, drink some. The ghost Tianyao in the film is as hot as a steamer. You were just dragging the car, how were you talking? Did Zihao start to chant it? She looked so weird and looked at Zihao, and said, is it very stressful to invest in this kind of thing? Is it the director's revision of the script? The actor is so angry. Zihao took the water, took a sip, and his eyebrows were slightly sneered, damn it. Not only that. The entertainment circle is deep, the surface is bright, and there are pits in it. 5 million hits it in, and a lens NG 10 times, and I feel distressed. In this urban knock hand, I originally wanted to try a new water area and disperse the empire. The business risks. Who knows that the rivals are talking about me as an amateur and investing in private. Last night, it was 2 points, and my brain was buzzing like I was stinged by a bee pupa. He said, his video flew towards the far-away camera, and his usual domineering aura faded a little, revealing the reality of fatigue. When Yongqing heard it, his heart felt soft. She put down the water bottle and touched his arm lightly. Zihao, the entertainment circle is like my hospital, which saves people and entertainment on the surface, and has a lot of pressure on the back. You invest not only money, but responsibility. Those old foxes stare at you, just want to get a share of the pie. Don't take it hard, find someone to share it. Like Yongqing, she is your arm. Yongqing pointed and smiled badly, yes, Yuan Luan, my little arm can hold a boat. Qing said right, you always wear irons and collapse sooner or later. Come on, chat and talk in your heart, don't hold it in your heart. Zihao sneered, leaned against the back of the chair, and his eyes fell on Qing. What's in my heart? Well, since you asked. The entertainment industry is not only business, but also old income. A few years ago, I invested in my first drama. The heroine is a young actress, she is sweet and clingy. We started with the cooperation and sparked. She said she loved me. I said I wanted to leave the circle and live a simple life with me. I believed it and spent money to praise her. What was the result? I flew when I was red, and I got to know the bigger financial backer, saying the circle is different. That hurt has not been done yet. Since then, I have become domineering, just because I am afraid of falling in love with me again. When investing in this industry, my feelings are like catching a bet and I can't afford it. The air suddenly calmed down, and the sound of the fan's leaf turned clear. Yongqing widened her eyes. Wow, General Lu, do you still have this dark history? That little flower is now in a state of turmoil and she heard that it is hidden. Yongqing, have you heard that it is? This man needs healing. Yongqing felt nervous, and Zihao's confession was like a door, pushing the castle in his heart. She leaned closer, and her voice was gentle as spring wind. Zihao, that's not your fault. Love is already a risk, and you bravely gave the opportunity, but you were still impoverished by innocent people. Like me, as a doctor, I sometimes rely on tools to treat the doctor, so I have to listen carefully. The wound in your heart is an old scar, I understand. Do you remember my golden finger? Seeing through the body's disease at a glance, in fact, people's hearts are the same. I see you, not an Iron Man, but a man with a story. I'm okay to let me try to treat you. Start by removing the defense, and no longer bear it alone. Zihao turned his head, his eyes deep, and he stared at her for a long time. Her words were like a warm current, melting the frost in his chest. He suddenly smiled, reached out to hold her palm, and his palms stuck together, and passed it hotly. Yongqing, you always see blood. It's even better than X-rays. Okay, I'll take it off. From now on, you will be my specialty doctor. Not only your body, but your heart also communicates to you. The emotional connection was roaming like a vine, and Yongqing stood beside him. Hey, it's so sweet. Yongqing, have you changed from a rational doctor to a human mode? Your eyes are bright. The face is sunny and there is no pulling. A change in her heart. Since then, she has always used rational analysis of her condition and has also protected herself emotionally. Zihao's fragility made her want to embrace her with emotion. The family's restraint seemed to be a little relaxed. Although the mother's phone was still in her brain, she now wanted to pursue this kind of heart rather than being arranged to be stable. Yongqing suddenly stood up, her eyes were sly. You continue to have a deep chat. I'll tell the director that the next stage will be postponed for half an hour. Qing, Zihao, there is a small lake behind the shed, with beautiful scenery. Go for a walk, romantic and romantic. She said without hesitation, pushing the two people behind the prop shed. Her pace was as fast as a rabbit. Go quickly, I'll help you to get the wind. This is a sister's matchmaking ceremony. Don't blame me if you miss it. Zihao was stunned for a moment, and let her push. Qing, you have such a malicious drama to make trouble for me all day long. Qing was pushed and giggled and said, Qing, don't be so arrogant, we haven't. Before he finished speaking, Yongqing had already returned to the scene and wrote the next sentence, go romantic. Don't thank me. The small lake behind the shed was quiet, with green waters, willows hanging on the shore, and slight wind blew, rippling with fine waves. The sun is on the water surface, with golden light, and wild flowers around it, and the air is fresh and fragrant with the earth. The two of them walked shoulder to shoulder, stepping on the lawn, and the soft touch felt like a cloud. Zihao stopped and turned to her. Qing is so cute. But, thank her. Qing, is it peaceful here? Are we going to continue the topic just now? The sunny man leaned against the wooden sill on the lake, and the wind blew her hair. Well, I don't mind what you said. On the contrary, I appreciate your sincerity. The doctor has seen too many people who are confused about the condition. It is courage to be so open. Zihao took a step closer, and the distance was closer to the breathing. His hands slapped her waist, his eyes burning. Courage? For you, I dared anything. Qing, your eyes pulled me in that day from the hospital. It was not a doctor, but a woman. I want to tell you that my intention has never changed. The air seemed to solidify, and the lake water slapped the shore, making a gentle whisper. Yongqing's heart beat like a deer, and she was about to respond, but her feet suddenly slipped under her feet, the lawn was moist, and she was unstable and she turned forward. Zihao had quick eyes and quick hands, and he clamped her waist, and the two of them instantly clasped. His lips were impartial, and when he met her, the unexpected kiss was like an electric shock, soft, with the sweet and sour smell of grapes. Time quits, winds stop, and the world is only warm to each other. Yongqing widened her eyes, her brain buzzed, but she didn't push it open. Zihao was stunned for a moment, deepened immediately, sucking gently, as if she was savoring the most precious honey. When the kiss ended, the two were panting, their faces were red like ripe apples. Shaoqing's voice came from afar, laughing badly, "Hey, isn't the time for me to come back? Continue." It turned out that she followed her secretly, hiding behind the tree and peeking. Yongqing pushed Zihao open and wiped her lips awkwardly, "Shiqing. Your evil tricks have made us." Zihao laughed and pulled her back, his eyes fixed, "Has it? This is the heaven. Yongqing, don't hide. The kiss just now is not an accident, but a word in my heart. I love you, from the beginning of medical problems to now. Is it okay to be my girlfriend? It's not just a favor, it's always protecting you and giving you freedom." Yongqing's heart is full of tide, from rationality to sensibility, just this kiss. She looked at him, her inner soul was like a butterfly breaking, the pressure of the family is no longer a mountain, but a transitional cloud. My mother's arrangements and Shaoqing's matchmaking all pushed her towards this true love. She pointed her head, and her voice was trembling with happiness, "Okay, Zihao. I love you too. From your domineeringness to your current sincerity." The two hugged each other again, Shaoqing applauded and said, "Congratulations. It's so sweet. Yongqing, you finally feel emotional and shake off those shackles." As the sun sets, the lights on the scene are bright. Zihao turned Yongqing's hand and walked towards the parking lot. "I've finished filming, and the private aircraft will leave tonight. I booked the resort on the seaside. There is no pressure, only us. Go." Yongqing leaned on his shoulder and pointed, "Go. From the scene to the sky, this is our beginning." The engine sounded, and the car drove to the airport. In the night, the lights of the aircraft flashed far away, waiting to carry them toward the romantic climax. Shaoqing closed her eyes and felt that the world was wide and her love was like wings, which led her to escape from her. Number of words, 1289. The night was as dark as the lights at the airport became blurry far away, and the engine of the private aircraft roared and broke through the sky, carrying Zihao and Yongqing straight into the sky. The lights inside the machine are soft, and the off-white leather seats are as spacious as living rooms. The air is filled with a faint lavender fragrance, which is radiating from the air conditioning system. Yongqing leaned against the porthole, watching the lights of the city below as bright as a galaxy, and her heart felt unprecedentedly relaxed. The unexpected kiss on the scene was still savoring the lips. The sweet touch was like melted chocolate, which made her unable to help but touch the corner of her mouth. Zihao brought 2 glasses of red wine from the bar, and the wine was swayed in the crystal cup, reflecting his handsome face. He sat down, turned her hand, and his palms were warm and powerful. "Yongqing, the first time I was sitting on a private aircraft, isn't it dull? The resort on the seaside is here in 2 hours, no one was suffocating there, only waves and us." His voice was low and magnetic, like a cello shaking heartstrings. Yongqing smiled and shook her head, "Not bad. It's more stable than the helicopter rescue in the hospital." "Zihao, thank you. This trip, like a dream, has gone from medical treatment to now. I never thought that love can be so sudden." The aircraft lifted straight off, and the cloud layers swept through the porthole like marshmallows. Zihao pulled her to the sofa area, and the two sat shoulder to shoulder with their knees. He opened a bottle of fragrance, and bubbles rose up finely, accompanied by the crisp sound of the bottle. Suddenly, Maybe it's fate. Come, cheer, let's start our own. The wine glasses clinked, and a tingling sound was sipped, and the sweet and sour breath slid across her throat, making her face slightly red. The quietness in the air opened the box. Zihao put down the cup and his eyes were deep. Yong Qing, I said the past in the scene, but I didn't tell you. The Empire Group is not my own. I have been strict since my father, saying, men need blood, and feelings are weak. My mother died early, and he remarried, and the children brought by her mother always wanted to take a seat. I took over at the age of 18, and I have stepped on so many pitfalls in the merger case and injured many people. For example, before the car that day, I was fighting with the board, and my brain was all calculated. Without you, I might not only be physically damaged, but also my heart was broken. When Shaoqing heard it, his heart was tightened. She turned to him and gently slapped the back of his hand. Zihao, you are not iron blood, but flesh and blood. The doctor has seen too many patients hiding pain. You are so open and trusted. Where is me? I have been in charge of my mother, and I am as stable as a routine. I have tried to save someone in the hospital, but when I was afraid of a mistake in my relationship, I can't get back. Now I understand that love is not a shackle, but wings. Her words are like spring rain, pouring into Zihao's heart. He pointed his head, his eyes softly. Yes, from now on, we will have wings to each other. Tell you, those golden fingers have had since childhood. They sound like superpowers. Yongqing smiled and leaned on his shoulder. Well, when I was a child, I saw my mother sick, and I knew it was a mental problem at first sight. The doctor also suspected that I was talking nonsense. When I grew up, I just wanted to use it to help others. But I was tired. I always felt different, afraid of getting close to people and being regarded as monsters. Now, with you, I am not afraid. The chat in the air was like a long flow of water, revealing the layers of heart, and the distance between the two people was closer from their bodies to their souls. The aircraft jogged slightly, and her heart warmed. This unique place made her finally lose her shadow. It was no longer a mother's pawn, but her own master. The flight attendant knocked on the door and pushed the car in and said, Mr. Chung, dinner is ready. The luxurious dinner is spread out like a painting. On the silver plate, French turf liver with black truffle sauce. Next to it is charcoal grilled Australian Wagyu beef, with rich juice and fragrant nose. The sausages on the table shook, reflecting the deep red wine, and the background music was light jazz, which was as soft as waves. Yong Qing widened her eyes and said, Oh my God, this is even more annoying than Michelin. Zihao, you have a habit of me. Zihao blinked and put his liver into her plate. Artificial? That's the beginning. Eat, Miss Doctor, replenish your body, and travel longer. Halfway through the dinner, Zihao suddenly stood up, his eyes flashing. He took out a box from his luggage, knelt on his knees, and acted elegantly and heavy, like a medieval rider. The box opened, a diamond ring shone brightly, and blue stone was embedded on the ring, which was clattered with her. Yongqing, from the day of the hospital, your eyes saved me. From the game to the film, every moment it proves that you are my destiny. Is it okay to marry me? Let me protect you for the rest of my life and give you free love. The rebellion of the Grand Door begins with us. His voice trembled slightly, and the president who was usually domineering was as fragile as a boy at this moment. Yong Qing was stunned, her eyes flushed in an instant. The water slids down the face, bringing sweetness in the salty smell. She stretched out her hand and choked in her voice, Zihao, I agree. It's not because of the ring, but because of you, that I love bravely. Zihao stood up, put the ring on her nameless finger, and the blue stone poured into the skin, warming it into the heart. He held her in, touching her with his lips. Thank you, ma'am. Sweet, get up tonight. The kiss fell, and the deep affectionate air in the plane seemed to burn. Yong Qing closed her eyes, and the interchange was completed. From a doctor who was hesitant to a woman who was in love, she completely accepted this reversal and threw away all the shadows. 2 hours later, the aircraft landed on the runway of the private beach resort. The hot weather brings the night wind, mingling the sweet fragrance of sea salt and coconut. The resort lights are at the ignition point, and the wooden houses are hidden among the palm trees, and the sounds are like low words. Zihao walked into the villa on the seaside. Outside the floor-to-ceiling window was the sea without a side, the moonlight was on the sand, and the silver was shining. "This is my secret base, no one can stop me," he said, lit the balls, and the two sat on the terrace, stepping on the fine sand, and the breeze was comfortable. Early in the morning of the second day of the trip, the sun was dazzling and the waves hit the shore, and the rhythm of the rhythm was released. When Yongqing woke up, Zihao was ready to prepare breakfast, fresh mango and dragon salad, and juice-quenched thirst with ice. They walked on the beach with their hands, stomped on the waves with red feet, foamed feet, and laughed. Suddenly, Zihao stepped aside, his face changed slightly, and he pressed his chest with his hand. "Yongqing, is it a little bit cold? Is the old car injured?" "It's nothing on the plane, why are you feeling now?" He was browsing, sweating, and breathing was rapid. Wei Qing felt nervous and immediately pulled him to the beach chair. Her golden fingers activated and the video swept over his chest. The pericardium had a light microfluid recurrence, accompanied by wind-stimulated gastrointestinal inflammation, and there was a mild inflammation in the old scar. If not treated, it may cause a disordered heart rhythm. "Don't move, it is inflammation caused by old injuries and moisture in Shanghai. Come on, I press the pressure to clear it." She knelt in front of him, and her fingers were massaged along the meridian, from her chest to Jianjing Point, with the strength as accurate as moxibustion. Zihao felt a heat flowing, the pain subsided, and his breathing was stable. "Yongqing, you saved me again. God, this golden finger is my amulet." As the crisis resolved, Zihao's eyes were even more settled. He pulled her up and hugged her tightly. "From now on, my determination to protect my wife has doubled. Whoever dares to object to us, I will smash his empire." Yongqing smiled, and a sense of accomplishment in her heart, using her ability to protect her lover, making her more confident and embrace this love. The mobile phone was shocked, and Lin Xiaoqing's video jumped out. "Qingqing. How about traveling? I heard that you are flying by the sea, so romantic. Come on, sisters, get rid of those ghosts, and wait for you with a sweet door. Xiaoqing supports you to the end of the world." In the picture, Xiaoqing is making makeup on the scene, with a noisy background and a full of cheerful eyes. Qing replied with her red face, "Qing, thank you. We are very good, don't work too hard, your feet are well damaged." After the shutdown, another phone call came up, it was Yaling. Yongqing listened. "Mom?" Yaling's voice became softer and no longer pointed. "Yongqing, did you hear that you and Lu Zihao were on a trip? Mom doesn't object, he protects you like this, better than young Master Li. Come back and talk, mother will give you food. I used to have too many mothers, but now you are growing up, mother supports your choice." At the end of the phone, Yaling was filled with a slight swelling, which made Qing's eyes wet. "Mom, thank you. Come back, I'll show you goodbye." 3 days of travel are like a dream, with waves, sea breezes, and sweetness piled up. On the return flight, Qing leaned on Zihao's shoulder, looked at the ring shining, and thought to herself, "The shadow of each other disperses, I am now a complete self." When the aircraft landed in City S, it was already dusk. The assistant drove them back to the city. Zihao's mobile phone suddenly rose and a message popped up. "My father's assistant came, General, the family meeting is in urgent need. The old son of the mainland heard that you were getting married with an outsider, and the opposition was loud and he would go back to the Empire State Building to discuss tomorrow." Zihao's face was slightly dark and he held Qing's hand tightly. "I'll take a small matter." But Qing was worried, and the family's opposition was like a cloud, quietly covering their sweet sky. The car drove into the night, and the city's lights were still bright, with a burst of rain coming. Number of words, 1278. The night in S City is as thin as a layer of thin wattle, covering the Imperial Group headquarters building. The high-pitched glass curtain wall reflects neon lights, like a sharp sword penetrates into the sky. The car stopped at the underground parking lot of the building, and the engine sounded abruptly. Zihao held the direction plate tightly and turned to look at Yong Qing. Don't worry, the family meeting. I'm right, they can't stand it. His voice was as sure as iron, and his palm covered the back of her hand. The warm touch was like a heart-restoring pill, which made Yong Qing's tightness slightly. But she knew in her heart that this was not a trivial matter. The door of a rich door was never something that money could easily cross. The elevator reaches the top-floor meeting room, and the door opens, and the cold air conditioning squirts are swaying with the bitter taste of leather and coffee. The long table was filled with long legs, and Zihao's father, Jintian, sat in the middle, at the age of 60, with gray hair and sharp eyes. Next to his mother, Mrs. Liu, were several cousins, and the atmosphere was as solemn as on the eve of a violent rain. When Liu Jintian met his son, he spoke in a low voice. Zihao, is the marriage true? That's Su Qing, doctor. If the door is not right, your successor to the empire and marry an outsider, how can the family be left? Our family has been married for many years, and the business alliance is stable. You are self-destructive. Zihao took Yong Qing and sat down, unable to relax. His aura exploded in an instant, and his eyes swept over the crowd, staring at the pet, dad, face. The empire is mine, not a chessboard. Yong Qing saved my life. She is a genius doctor and deserves anyone. Oppose? Okay, but don't try to move her finger. Mrs. Liu sneered, and her voice was sharp. Genius? Listen to me, she said that her family background is average, and her mother also arranged to meet her, and she was rogue and romance. Are you fascinated? Our family has a better choice, Zhang's daughter, and the door is right. Cousin Yuming also interjected, and Yang was strange. Brother, the imperial stock price was strange last night, and investors heard the wind was rain. Your love is probably to drag down the company. Xiao Qing's heart was tightened and her fingers were slightly swaying. These words were like sluts, stinging her fantasy about Haoman. But Zihao didn't give them a chance to breathe. He suddenly stood up and said, "Close your mouth. I can calm down in the imperial stock price. Yong Qing is not an outsider, she is my future wife. Who dares to exert pressure, I will withdraw my capital and stop cooperation, so that you can feel kicked out." The conference room was silent, the sky was shining, and Mrs. Liu opened her mouth and said. Zihao turned around and held Yong Qing, and the crowd kissed her head. Don't be afraid. With me here, no one can break us apart. The domineering protection was like a wall that covered the wind and rain, which turned Yong Qing's panic into a warm current. She leaned against his chest and said in a low voice, "Zihao, thank you." A sense of security surged in her heart, which had never been so real. He was not acting, he was sincerely protecting her. The meeting ended in a hurry, and Yu Jintian shook his sleeves and left, and said, "Zihao, you will regret it." But Zihao didn't chase him and walked out of the building. The night wind blew, scattering the smoke from the streets, and the city's movement made her breath. On the car, Zihao said, "Dad, I'm so ill. But I won't let my steps." Yong Qing pointed her head, and suddenly her mobile phone rose. It was Yaling. Responding, the voice was urgent. "Yong Qing. Did you hear that you and Lu Zihao are marrying?" Mom checked, and the Liu family is talking loudly. You are asking for trouble. Haoman is deep, so please go back. Mr. Li is still waiting. Mom, for your own good, don't be stubborn. Yong Qing held the phone tightly, and the embarrassment of flashing through the scene and the control of her mother. She would have quit before, but now it is different. She took a deep breath and said, "Mom, I won't turn back. Zihao gave me freedom, not a shackle. Do you contact the home to apply pressure? Then I have to prove that this choice is right." Yaling was stunned, and her temperament was softer. You have changed. Mom doesn't want to be calm, but be careful. After shutting down the phone, Qing's heart turned like a tide. From being passively accepted and pursued to taking the initiative to fight, she was no longer the girl in a white coat hiding in the hospital, but a woman who dared to love. Zihao heard the whole process and smiled. Brave, Qing. Are you a partner? I'm notorious, I'll take it. The next morning, the hospital's emergency clinic was as busy as ever. The smell of disinfectant was mixed with the aroma of coffee, and the sound of the supervisor was not absolutely lingering. When Mr. Li changed into a white coat, he was pulled into the office by Lao Li. Little prince, something big happened. Vice President Wang is in trouble again. The last time he had a medical dispute, he was not very good at it. He is now in a joint battle with the hospital and spread your remarks that you are going to get on top. The KPI assessment has been changed, your surgical allocation has been reduced, and the patient's family has also sued, saying that you have a bad diagnosis. The hospital's reputation has been affected, and the president has made you feel low. Mr. Wang's heart sank. Vice President Wang's jealousy is like a poisonous snake, and the job crisis level deepens. She rubbed her eyebrows and said, Old Li, I'm fine. I never missed my golden fingers. This time I took the initiative to check. While he was worried, his cell phone was shaking. Lin Xiaoqing's voice jumped out. Qing. Sisters heard the news. Vice President Wang had a cousin, Xu Ming, who was slapped his waist and wanted to use medical investment cases to suppress you. Xu Ming's guy is jealous of Zihao, and he just wanted to tear you down. Don't be afraid, I have a line of eyes in the scene. I have already said that he will deal with it. But you take the initiative and reverse the Haoman, starting from the job site. Come on, Xiaoqing supports you. The message was accompanied by several recordings, and the conversation between Xu Ming and Vice President Wang was clear. The words were spread and the cooperation between imperial medical officers. After hearing the sound, she was furious. Xiaoqing's information was like a light tower, allowing her to move from passive defense to take the initiative. She immediately replied, Thank you, it's sunny. I won't sit and wait. In the afternoon, the medical cooperation meeting of the Empire Group was held at the hospital meeting hall. After attending the event, Mrs. Lu and Lu Ming went along, and the atmosphere was in conflict. Qing was called to explain and said that when she walked into the hall, all her eyes were on her back. Yuzhentian opened his door to see the mountain. Dr. Su, Imperial Investment Hospital, you have heard a lot of medical accidents. Cooperation. Make sure you first. Vice President Wang smiled. Yes, Dr. Su, genius. Or rely on men. Yongqing stood up straight, without retreating. She looked at the crowd and said in a cold voice, Old Master Lu, the words are false. But I will show you. At this moment, Mrs. Lu suddenly covered her chest and her face turned pale. Oh, my heart is so sad. Zhentian, I can't do it anymore. The whole scene was in a mess. Vice President Wang called for medical treatment, and Zhentian's face was green. Save my wife. Qing's heart moved and stepped forward to touch Mrs. Lu's fighting. Activated by the golden finger, the brain is floating images, the heart rhythm is not smooth, the coronary artery is slightly narrow, accompanied by the sensation caused by hypoglycemia. Old disease occurs. If not treated, it may be myocardial infarction. Don't be upset. Qing pointed as if she was calm. Prepare nitroglycerin to take sublingually to monitor blood sugar. Mrs. Lu, do you have a history of diabetes? The signs show hypoglycemia and arrhythmia. She carefully pressed the Wenrenshang point and Nigu point to clear the air and blood. Mrs. Lu panted and calmed, and her face turned red. Vice President Wang glared. How do you know? No check. Xianqing ignored him and continued, I diagnosed it at one glance. The crown is 30% narrow. It is recommended to test the cardiac chart and blood sugar immediately. It is processed in time, without any serious damage. The doctor pushed the instrument, and the result was verified, exactly the same. Yuzhentian was shocked and helped Mrs. Lu up. Xiao Su, you're so amazing. Lu, what do you think? Mrs. Lu gasped. her eyes turned from her vicious eyes to complex. I'm stable. Thank you, Dr. Su. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid. The whole scene was breathing. Vice President Wang's face turned pale, and Yongqing was embarrassed and low. Zihao came with a message and slapped Yong Qing. Dad, have you seen it? Yong Qing is not an outsider, she is a genius. Cooperation continues, sayings. Yongqing and Vice President Wang, you are so fucked. His domineering declaration was a response to the meeting hall, and the sky was at the beginning, and he initially recognized it. Zihao, you have a good vision. Xiao Su, the family owes you a life. Get married. I think about it again. Mrs. Lu also said softly, thank you, child. From now on, I will come to the house often. Yong Qing felt a sense of vigor in her heart. Her golden finger not only saved people, but also recognized it. She took the initiative to hold Zihao's hand. Zihao, let's fight together. From being passive and reversal to taking the initiative to protect her love, she felt like she was reborn as a phoenix. Although the crisis in her career was deep, she was not afraid of him and Xiao Qing. After the meeting dispersed, the lights in the hospital corridor were soft, and the sunset outside the window continued. Xiao Qing's phone call came. Qing, you're fucking beautifully. I've posted the record to Zihao. At Vice President Wang, the film line said that he was panicked. Keep cheering, Haoman jobs are both reversed. Yongqing smiled and said, Xiao Qing, thank you for your information. Next film, I'll invite guests. Shut down, she leaned on Zihao's shoulder, the crisis is still there, but I won't hide. Take the initiative to fight for our happiness. Zihao kissed her hair. Okay, let's go together. But in the corridor, Vice President Wang's shadow flashed through, and the crisis was like an undercurrent, quietly pouring deeper into the depths. The night fell and the fires were bright, and their battle began. The lights in the corridor of the hospital were pulled to the top, reflected on the white porcelain bricks, like an endless tunnel. Yong Qing and Zihao walked shoulder to shoulder, and her hands were still tightly held by him, and the heat in her palm made her feel relieved. But I just met with the victory of the hall, like a short smoke, and now the smell of nitrate is scented in the air. Vice President Wang's heavy back couldn't get away from his brain. She sneered and leaned on his shoulder. Zihao, the family of the Lu family has initially agreed, but Vice President Wang will not be willing to let go. His eyes seemed to be trying to eat people. Zihao stopped, turned around and stared at her, his eyes calmed down. He dares to move you, I can't even let his hospital open. The medical investment in the empire is your backing. Go home, I will accompany you tonight. His words were like a strong heart, and Yongqing smiled slightly, and a warm current surged in her heart. Since then, she has always carried the wind and rain on her job alone. Now with him, this dependence is no longer a weakness, but a source of strength. The two walked out of the hospital gate. The night wind blew her face, the scent of the snacks on the street was filled with smoke, and the neon lights in the city were like woven, making her forget to worry about it all the time. The next morning, the sun shone into the doctor's office with a dazzling look. When Yong Qing changed into a white coat, her mobile phone was buzzing and trembling. On the screen, a hot search popped up. Genius female doctor's medical censorship has been exposed. Imperial Group Investment Hospital incident, female president's relatives are involved in the case. Her heart sank and she clicked on the news. An anonymous revelation said that the surgery she had in charge caused permanent illness in the patient. The hospital sued and Vice President Wang was named shareholder. The picture is a vague illness, and the close photos of her and Zihao. The title is rumored, The Deal Behind Medical Beauty. The commentary is like a wildfire spreading, and the commentary area exploded. Genius? Just be a fool. The money from the Empire Group is exchanged for a black-hearted doctor. Xiao Wei rushed in and her face turned pale. Sister Yongqing, something big is not good. The patient's house is blocked, and the media came. The dean asked you to go to the conference room to explain. Vice President Wang, the director. Yongqing took a deep breath and turned off her phone. The job trap came too quickly. Although her golden finger was magical, this was human being. The entertainment circle also affected. Yongqing's drama group was popular and searched, and netizens suspected that investment on the big boss's girlfriend doctor's black material. Is the drama still broadcast? Zihao's 5 million investment instantly became cannon fodder. Anger surged in her heart. She had panicked and avoided her. Now she wanted to face it. Let's go and see, I'm not afraid. Outside the meeting room, the reporter was flashing lights like a rainstorm. The security guard cried at the family, I'm fair. Dr. Su, you've hurt my son. Vice President Wang put on a stern face, stood at the door, and smiled proudly. Dr. Su, are you here? You can explain this. The hospital's reputation has been destroyed, and the imperial investment has become yellow. Yong Qing ignored him and looked at the master. The woman was in her 40s, with red eyes and holding the young man on the wheelchair, the son of the last time the heart valve case. She squatted down and said lightly, Auntie, I remember your son. The postoperative infection was caused by a drug reaction, not my diagnosis. Let me take a look, okay? As the family was you, Vice President Wang sneered, look at it again. Where is the acting? It's all exploded online, your dark history. But Yong Qing had already grasped the patient's wrist, and her golden fingers were activated like a flash. In the brain, there is a clear appearance. The patient's lower limbs are weak and not postoperative symptoms, but hidden spinal cord neurotic inflammation. The CT scan was not encountered earlier, and the family had a previous medical history. Vice President Wang's slander was in front of him. He tampered with his illness, deleted the drug records, and anonymously sued and promoted the situation. Qing stood up, her voice was cold and silenced. Auntie, your son was not caused by me. It was the old disease of spinal cord neurotic inflammation, and the nerve images were not checked in time after surgery. The disease was changed. This is a medical trap. The whole scene was stunned, and Vice President Wang's face changed. Nonsense. Where is the evidence? Qing turned around, took out her phone from her pocket, and played the recording posted by Yongqing last night. I heard, Vice President Wang, you and Lu Ming are in charge, spreading the investment. The original version of the disease, I have a backup. Vice President Wang's voice was clear. Then Su Qing was in trouble, and he changed his illness and searched for the hot search. The investment from the empire was transferred to me. The reporter was blown up, and the lights flashed wildly, and the family widened their eyes. Are you hurting my son? Vice President Wang stepped back and hurriedly said, this is fake. Just in the midst of chaos, the hall was pushed open and his feet were rising rapidly. Zihao strode forward, and his assistant carried the document box, and the air was like a wind. The media recognized him and shouted, General. Is the Empire responding to the cried voice? Zihao went straight to Qing's body, slapped her waist, and proclaimed overbearingly, response? This is a slander. The Empire Group officially stated, medical cooperation codes are added. Su Qing is a genius doctor. Vice President Wang is suspected of fraud, and the lawyer group has filed a lawsuit. He turned to his family and reported to his new illness, Auntie, the Empire provides resources to help your son treat neurotics, and the whole process is free. Qing's diagnosis has never been wrong. She has saved countless people, including me. Vice President Wang's face was gray and the test picture was cunning. Master, you protect your son. Zihao's eyes turned cold. Protection. This is called Zhengyi. If you roll out of the hospital, the Empire will withdraw the capital, so that your whole family will drink the northwest wind. The security guard stepped forward and took him away. The reporter was caught. The hot search instantly turned around. The female doctor revealed the golden finger. Vice President Wang was arrested. The imperial president sweetly protects his wife. Investment coding. Qing leaned against Zihao. Her heartbeat was calm and her heart was as refreshing as a heavy burden. From crisis to counterattack, she saw blood with her golden finger, but the cause was not over yet, but was promoted to the next level. The dean announced on the spot that she was promoted to deputy director of the Department of Heart and doubled her KPI. A familiar voice suddenly came from outside the door, Yong Qing. Yling pushed the crowd and rushed in panting, holding a warm-up box in her hand. She was originally a daughter who was low-tuning, and witnessed the whole process, Qing's town diagnosis, Zihao's domineering aviation, and Vice President Wang's wolf romance. Yling was stunned, her eyes bleak. Child. Mom is wrong. I used to want to arrange stability for you, thinking that a prosperous door is a pitfall. Now, you are worthy. Mom supports you. When it comes to marriage, Mom goes to the mainland to say something. She stepped forward and hugged Qing, her voice choked. Mom won't force you anymore, you are Mother's pride. Wei Qing's eyes were warm and she hugged her mother back. Mom, thank you. I can keep my love and business stable. Yling turned to Zihao and smiled. Boy, treat my daughter well, otherwise my mother won't give you a favor. Zihao pointed his head and looked gentle. Auntie, don't worry. I will protect her for the rest of my life. The crisis resolved, the air in the hospital relaxed, the reporters dispersed, and the family was grateful. Zihao took Qing's hand and walked out of the door. The sun shone on them, shining like gold powder. Miss Doctor, you're so fucked today. The golden finger not only saved people, but also saved our business. He lowered his head and kissed her, sweet as honey, making the passers-by around him look at him. Qing smiled, and her heart was like a flower. Since then, she divided her love and career, for fear of falling in. Now, she is confidently integrating the two, the job is her battlefield and Zihao is her backing. The joy of growing up made her pace light and fast. In the evening, the sunny scene was filled with makeup. She heard everything and happily held a small celebration party. The table was filled with fruit plaques and fragrances, the background music was a light pop song, and the actors sat around, talking. Sister Qing, it's amazing. When you see blood, you will be flooded with your backlash on the internet. Xiaoqing held the wine glass and ran into Qing. Sister, congratulations. The job site has won the double rewards. From a doctor to a sweet wife, you have changed too quickly. General Manager, thank you for your maintenance and the investment in the film has been stable. Zihao smiled and slapped Qing's waist. I'm thankful to Xiaoqing, your love rescue. Come on, cheer for Qing's confidence. During the party, Yongqing and Xiaoqing chatted on the sand, and the sweet and sour taste of the juice spread in the air. Xiaoqing blinked. Qing, you are different now. I used to be hesitant, but now my eyes are bright, like a queen. Love doesn't bother with things, but I will push you to the top. Sisters admire you. Qing touched the ring, and felt as if she was alone. Yes, from the awkwardness of the family scene, to the romance of the film, to today's reaction, I am no longer the passive girl. Zihao gave me courage, and I used my golden finger to beat him back. This fusion makes me complete. The party lights were flashing, and the laughter was not absolute. Yling also called for a video and smiled. Children have fun, Mom is waiting for you to come back and have a meal at home. Late at night, Zihao drove to take Xiaoqing home. The air inside the car was refreshing and the lights outside the window were as bright as a river. Suddenly, his phone rang out, and the assistant voice was urgent. General, Lu Ming was not giving up, and he joined forces with the competition group to spread internal censorship from the empire. The stock price was uneven, and the board of directors would change tomorrow. Zihao's face was slightly dark, and he held her hand tightly. I'll fight a little crisis. Qing felt tight, but her eyes were firm. Go together. Zihao, our sweetness will not stop. The car drove into the night, and the lights of the large building were as bright as stars, indicating the final storm. But tonight, she just wants to embrace this growth satisfaction and prepare for a bigger wave. The night wind slid in from the gaps in the car window, scattering the burning and grilling fire on the streets of S-City, and Zihao's car moved forward in the neon lights. Feng Qing leaned against the back of the chair, her fingers rubbed the ring unconsciously, and the blue stone flashed like a star under the road light. The assistant's phone was still rumbling around his ears, and the face of Shuming was floating in his brain. She said lightly, Zihao, stock price changes are not a trivial matter. The competition group of Shuming will definitely have big moves. Tomorrow's board meeting, I'll go with you. Zihao held the direction plate in his hand and smiled. He smiled, his eyes filled with drowning. Miss Doctor, you should have a rest. Don't worry, I have a lot. But your support is my ace. The car stopped under the apartment building, and he got off the car and opened the door for her. The hug under the night sky was warm and short. Good night, see you tomorrow. The next morning, the conference room of the Empire State Building was stalked like a war scene. The sun shines through the floor-to-ceiling windows, reflecting the pile of documents on the long table, and the air is filled with the bitterness of coffee and the smell of smoke. Xu Zhintian knocked on the table, and his voice was thunderous. Zihao, the stock price fell 5% last night, and investors' withdrawals were turbulent. Xu Ming said, your marriage script dragged down the company. Zhangjia marriage is the right way, otherwise the empire will be in danger. Xu Ming sat aside, wearing a stern face, and a proud arc appeared on the corner of his mouth. Brother, Dad said it right. Mr. Li, who competed for the group, contacted me last night, willing to pay attention, but the condition was, you gave up that doctor. Otherwise, they released the certificate of internal corruption in the empire, which was all fake, but it would ruin us. Zihao leaned against the back of the chair, crossed his arms with his chest, and his atmosphere was as cold as ice. Suppose? Yu Ming, you and Dong Li cooperated with him to spread my chills, and still want to pull my mother into the water? Aunt Yeling called Wei Qing last night, right? What do you say? Haoman is not worthy. Yu Ming's face changed slightly and she smiled strongly. Brother, you think too much. Dad, this is for the company. But Zihao had pressed the remote control on the table, and a monitoring screen popped up on the projection screen. Yu Ming and Dong Li talked in a golf club. Clear voice, then Su Qing is the key, contact her mother, and create a family crisis. Lu Zihao is soft and will speak easily. The whole scene was breathing in a bad mood, and Lu Zhintian widened his eyes. Ming. You, beast. Zihao stood up, his voice was domineering. Dad, from now on, Lu Mingxiao will continue to take over. Mr. Li's deduction. The empire is not rare. I have new allies, medical cooperation has expanded, and the stock price will turn red tomorrow. Who dares to move Yongqing, I will make him regret giving birth. At the meeting, Zihao's assistant came to the tablet. General, Ms. Yeling had a date to meet Miss Su at the cafe. She heard it was concern, but there was suspicion. Zihao raised his eyebrows and grabbed the key of the car. Go and pick up the Qing. At the same time, in a high-end cafe in the city center, the sun shone through the glass window on the wooden table, reflecting the ripples of the coffee in the cup. Qing pushed the door in, and Yeling was already waiting there. Her face was pale, and she was holding a piece of paper in her hand. The fragrance of baked beans is filled with the air, which cannot cover up the tightness between mother and daughter. Mom, are you looking for me? Qing sat down, ordered a cup of American style, and the heat rose. Yeling pushed the document and said, Qing, look at this. The internal report from the Chinese family that Zihao's marriage has caused the empire to be in danger, the stock price collapsed, and the employees lost their jobs. My mother checked, and Dong Li said, Zihao is a playboy, just playing with you. Mom, for your own good, let's break up. The stable Mr. Li is still there. The water in Haoman is too deep. What should you do if your boat capsizes? In the document, the pile of certificates created, Zihao's old lover photo, the empire's guilty form, and even the guarantee book of Chairman Li. If they break up, the fund will help Qing open a private clinic. Yeling's eyes were red. Child, my mother is not against love, but she is actually cool. If you listen to her, take a step back and go to the sky. Qing's heart sank. These certificates were like knives, planning her concern for the rich people. But she didn't panic, took a deep breath, and held her mother's hand. Mom, you were cheated. This document is fake. Dong Li is Zihao's opponent. He is in contact with Dong Li. He wants to break up us. Remember the last time he worked in the crisis? They were behind Vice President Wang. Now, you are pulled into the water again. Yeling was stunned and pulled her hand back. Impossible. Dong Li said that he has the inner line of his home. Before he finished speaking, the coffee shop was pushed. When Lin Shaoqing panted, she slapped her cell phone in her hand. Auntie. Qing. Sisters are here. I have eyewitness in the film. Mr. Li talked with Ru Ming last night and recorded it all. She put the phone on and played the voice. Mr. Li's voice was heavy. Did Yeling move? Tell her Zihao's black material to break up. Once the imperial stock price fell, we closed at a low price. Zihao was finished. After Yeling heard this, her face turned pale, and the documents in her hand slid down on the desktop, making a light response. She widened her eyes and looked at Qing. Mom is wrong and has been used again. Mom thinks that stability is right, but she will harm you. From the beginning of the relationship, Mom wants to control you, afraid that you will eat. But now, you are much stronger than Mom. I protect you like you, Mom. Mom wishes you. Go, Mom won't be stolen anymore. Her voice choked, and the water slid down. She reached out to hug her daughter. Child, I'm sorry. Mom supports you, I'll do it at will. Mom goes to the mainland to apologize. Qing hugged her mother back, and her heart was as warm as a tide. Since then, she has always retreated under the pressure of her mother, and now she is facing her independently, and her emotional conversation is like a bridge, connecting the broken relationship. She said lightly, Mom, thank you. Let's face it together, let's talk more about your worries in the future, and don't hide it. Yeling pointed her head and smiled. Okay, Mom is waiting for you to take him home for a meal. Shaoqing applauded on the side and smiled bitterly. Auntie, Qing is now an iron lady. This verdict was secretly recorded by my assistant in the field. It is clear that scum, it is alive. Qing, you have changed, climbed out of the mountain of pressure and turned into Zihao's strong backing. Sisters are proud. Xian Qing smiled, her heart turned like a brake. The family's mistakes will no longer be shackles, but the catalysis of growth. She stood up and hugged Shaoqing. Thank you, you always appear at the critical moment. Let's see Zihao. The three of them walked out of the cafe, and the sun was shining, and the streetcar was flying and the horse dragon. The steps of Qing were definitely as when she was no longer a victim, but a companion who actively protected her love. At the same time, outside the Empire State Building, a business storm was underway. At the head of the group, the glass curtain reflects the sunlight after afternoon. In the meeting room, Li and Ru Ming sat against each other. The fragrance had opened and their laughter was rampant. Ru Ming, Yeling has become. Zihao is so focused on being soft, and the stock price has fallen again. We will harvest the empire. Ru Ming's point, it's done. The iron plate. The door was suddenly knocked open, and Zihao stepped in, and the assistant and lawyer team entered. His aura was like a wild wind, and he swept the wine glass on the table, and the fragments were filled with pieces. Dr. Li, the game is over. Aunt Yeling's certificate. I have all the backup. The internal supervision of the empire recorded every word of your rumor. Stock price. Last night I had low-tuned purchases, and investors were at peace. Want to harvest? There was no door. Li Dong had a blue face and stood up and shouted, how did you come in? Security. But Zihao sneered, pressed the tablet, and projected the bank's record. The money-washing certificates of the Li Dong group and the filthy emails from the looming were all iron certificates dug out by the hacker team. You'll get into the bureau. The empire is in charge of the police, and the cooperation is over. Roll. Shu Ming sat down and pulled the BA. Brother, I'm wrong. Zihao's eyes were like a knife. Error. It's too late. Dad has already cheated you all, and I'll be eliminated from now on. The lawyer stepped forward and filed a lawsuit. Dong Li and Xu Ming were taken away by the security guard. The meeting room was instantly empty, leaving only Zihao's domineering declaration saying, "Who moves my woman, I'll destroy his whole family." Zihao turned away, and the assistant reported, "General, Miss Su is at the cafe and is with Yong Qing. Ms. Yaling is relieved." Zihao felt relieved and grabbed her cell phone to tell Qing, "Miss Doctor, where is it? Come under the building, I will pick you up." 10 minutes later, at the entrance of the cafe, Qing and Yongqing walked off the stage. Yaling said to herself, "Go, Mom, come home and wait for good news." 10 minutes later, at the entrance of the cafe, Qing and Yongqing walked off the stage. Yaling said to herself, "Go, Mom, come home and wait for good news." When the black car arrived quickly, Zihao got off the car and headed straight for Qing, pulling her into the slap. "Qing, sorry, I'll let you suffer. Dong Li and Lu Ming, I'll solve it all. Where is Aunt Yaling?" Qing leaned against his chest, whispered the familiar smell of ancient dragon water, and smiled, "Mom, I wish us blessings." Yongqing's verdict helps her. "Zihao, the awkwardness you are trying to outsmart your opponent, it's too bad." Yongqing blinked and took a step back. "You are sweet and I have a chance on the scene." Qing, remember, you are the queen now, you are in the strong companion mode, don't let the pressure be defeated. She left, leaving the two people alone. The streets were like a car, and the sun shone on them, bringing out shadows. Zihao lowered his head and looked at Qing, his eyes were burning. "Miss Doctor, you have never retreated from the establishment of the bureau to the reunion. I love you, this strength makes me want to protect you even more." He said without hesitation, kissed her lips with low head, domineering and gentle, with the tip of his tongue lightly, carrying the fragrance of coffee and the vigorous heat. Qing responded, and his neck was on both hands, kissing like sparks bursting, and the eyes of passers-by were all around them, and their world was left. After kissing, the two of them were panting and they reached the same limit. "Zihao, we won." Zihao smiled and said, "Yes, but there is still the final battle. The head of the mainland, wait for me to take you home, and I will finally agree." As the sun sets, the shadow of the great palace is getting older. Zihao raised Qing's hand and walked towards the car. "Go on the car and go home. Aunt Yaling's meal, let's go." Qing pointed and her heart was looking forward. The crisis is resolved, but the final climax of the premonition is coming to the last opposition of the Chinese, or perhaps a sweet end. The car engine growled low, driving towards the unknown night, but her heart was already like a rock. The night was spreading like a silkworm. Zihao's car slid on the Linda Road in City S. The low engine horn accompanied by the gentle jazz inside the car relieved the fatigue of the day. Qing leaned against the secondary driver's seat, and the neon lights outside the window passed by her face, reflecting the blue stone flash on the ring. She turned to look at Zihao, her face was clearly silhouetted under the road lights, and she was filled with a sense of fatigue. "Mom's meal," she said. It was simple and homely, but she must have something to talk about. "Zihao, how can my dad?" and his mouth relax at the far side of the house. Zihao smiled, held her finger in a single hand, and his palm was warm. "Yes. My dad is bloody, but seeing your golden fingers is already moving. Don't worry, after closing tonight, the wedding will be decided." The car stopped at Yaling's door, a warm second-level building, with osmanthus trees swaying in front of the door, and the fragrance of red meat scattered in the air, mixed with the freshness of the soil after the rain. When Yaling opened her door, she smiled heavily on her face, unable to hide the complexion in her eyes. "Come on. Come in quickly, the food is hot." "Zihao, the first time I came, my aunt will show you a lot." The living room was lighted warm and yellow, and the dining table was filled with home-cooked dishes, sweet and sour pork ribs, steamed fish, green vegetable hearts, and the hot trunk made Feng Qing's stomach feel intimate. The three of them sat down, and the sound of chopsticks colliding sounded. Yaling put the fish in Zihao's bowl and tried to find out, "Boy, listen to Qing, are you married? Are you a child from the mainland?" opposed. Auntie is not afraid, I will talk about it tomorrow. Although our family is not a prosperous house, Yongqing is a treasure. Who bullies her? Auntie will fight for her life. Zihao pointed his head and looked sincere. Auntie, thank you. I will fight the matter of the Chinese family. I will keep Qing's freedom. As soon as the voice fell, his phone suddenly shook, and the assistant's voice was as quick as fire. Total of the Chinese market, something big is not good. The stock price plummeted 15% overnight, and investors collectively withdrew their capital. Li Dongfeng's joint venture foreign funds released fake news and said that the internal collapse of the empire was collapsed and the medical investment was yellow. The board of directors urgently called, you should go back to the capital. Zihao's face darkened and he held his phone tightly. Stay calm, I'll arrive right away. He stopped and turned to Yongqing and Yaling. Sorry, Aunt, I haven't finished the food. The company is in crisis, I have to deal with it. Yaling was stunned, and her chopsticks were in the air. What's wrong? Isn't the empire a piece of iron plate? Yongqing felt nervous and stood up to pull Zihao. I'll go with you. Medical investment is my territory, maybe it can help. Zihao took a moment of hesitation and pointed, okay, let's go together. Yaling was angry and stood up to clean up. Go, Aunt is waiting for news at home. Yongqing, remember, you have no obstacles that cannot be overcome. The night outside the door was filled with joy, and the car rushed to the Empire State Building. Yongqing's hand was tightly holding Zihao, and a sense of determination came to her heart. In the past, she was always in danger of danger. Now, she had to take the initiative to move. The lights in the conference room were brightly lit, and the anxious directors sat by the long table, and the stock price curves on the projection screen fell like a cliff, with red numbers dazzling. Xu Zhentian knocked on the table and roared, Zihao, what's going on? Medical cooperation is going to be stable, why did it get yellow overnight? Mr. Li, the old fox, the party is still biting. Xu Ming has been kicked out, but his party has spread fake news. Imperial doctors are involved in corruption. Vice President Wang's old case was revealed, and the hospital's reputation dragged down everything. Investors' phone calls are blowing up, overseas funds take advantage of the situation, and the empires are like Titanic, and the slant is imminent. Zihao pushed the door and walked in, and the face was clear and tight. His aura was like a crazy wind, and he slapped the audience. Dad, director, crisis is fake, but we turn it into a barbaric position. He pulled Qing to sit down at the main seat, and the assistant projected new data. I have traced the fake news from Dongli Party. I have tracked the IP, all of them are overseas hackers. The medical investment is not yellow, and the hospital has heard that I am stable. Qing, tell me your plan. Qing Shen. He took a breath and stood up, and the sound was as cold as a surgical knife. Everyone, the medical crisis originated from Vice President Wang's old case, but he has been sued. In the hospital invested by the empire, I used my gold finger to diagnose countless cases and 0 accidents. The reverse turn, starting from here, Joint Entertainment Resources, Xiaoqing's drama series, I let her make a sound, and the celebrity effect should whitewash the discussion. During the phone call, Lin Xiaoqing's voice was sent out from the speaker, and the background was the noise of the film, Yongqing. Zihao. Did you hear it collapse? Sisters are online. My drama, Urban Kick-In, lost its revenue last night, with a huge number of fans. I posted on Weibo immediately to clarify that medical investment is the right thing, Empire is a hero. The film stars are all moving, live broadcasting the hospital charity, and invite Sister Qing to show her golden finger diagnosis. Entertainment circle discussion, I have it. Xiaoqing's efficiency is like a flash, and within 10 minutes, the hot search reversed. Lin Xiaoqing supports the imperial medicine and exposes the hacker's tragedy. Genius Dr. Su Qing saves the empire again. Fans poured in, and the stock price stopped falling and rebounded by 3%. But the crisis was not over, and Lu Zhentian said, entertainment whitening is a health care, what about medical evidence? Investors must buy it. Qing pointed, and the time for the golden finger to activate it has arrived. She took out the tablet from her bag and went to the hospital system. Dad, I contacted medical resources. Last night I predicted this wave and backed up all case data. Look, Vice President Wang's corruption certificate, I diagnosed the disease loophole he tampered with at a glance. Now, Imperial assistance during the hospital's major inspection, I closed myself and used my golden finger to scan high-risk patients. Zero-error diagnosis rate proved the value of cooperation. On the projection, the data was like snowflakes dancing, hundreds of diagnosed videos. Qing's fingers touched the patient, and instantly reported a disorder, and the doctor's verification was no error. The directors widened their eyes. This superpower. Yuzhentian slapped the table. It's amazing. Xiao Su, your golden finger is worth 1,000 gold. Zihao stood up, slapped Qing's waist, and the domineering declaration responded to the meeting room. Everyone, have you seen it? Qing is not an outsider, but my pillar. Who dares to doubt the imperial doctor? And I, Zihao, smashed his fund. Li Dongsung. The lawyer group has filed a lawsuit, the hacker IP is closed, and overseas cooperation is out. The stock price will turn red tomorrow, and the empire will be reborn. His voice was like thunder, shaking the whole scene. The directors stood up and applauded. Yuzhentian's eyes were complicated and he finally pointed. Zihao, you won. Xiao Su, the family recognizes you. Marriage. No, the wedding will be yours. The refreshing reversal was like a tide, and the meeting room burst into a 5% sensation. The crisis collapsed and turned into a profitable smoke. At the same time, Yeling's home phone calls continued. She heard everything, and her heart was filled with scent. Previously, she always thought that stability was love, so she pushed her daughter into the fire pit. Now, she decided to replenish it. The number of the pass through the contact left in the last time in the game. Old Master of the Rock, I am Su Yaling. Did you hear Qing's incident? She saved countless people with her golden fingers, including your wife. I don't ask for marriage, but I just ask you not to object. We are old, so let the children fly by themselves. Yuzhentian was silent for a moment, and was angry. Yaling, your daughter is a strange woman. I mistook her. I will host the wedding. Yaling closed, her eyes slipped down, and she was very happy. She called Xiaoqing again. Xiqing, thank you very much. Auntie went to the film to pick you up and celebrate together. The family is harmonious, starting from now on. Xiaoqing ended the live broadcast on the film and hugged Yaling excitedly. Auntie, you are here. Qing has successfully reversed, and we work together to resolve the last relationship. The head of the mainland family relaxed. That's great. The two drove to the Empire State Building. On the way, Xiaoqing shared a hot search. Look, Auntie. Fans all said that Sister Qing is a heroine and Zihao is the sweet president. The family obstacles are gone. Qing's freedom is really in love, full of fullness. Yaling smiled and felt sad. Yes, I used to be in harmony. Now, my mother just wants to see her happiness. Under the building, the remaining temperature of the crisis was still there. Zihao and Feng Qing walked out of the door, and the night wind blew on their faces, scattering the smell of the sea wind from afar. When Xiaoqing and Yaling's car arrived, the four of them met and laughed and laughed. Yaling took Qing's hand and said, Child, mother is proud of you. From the pressure of each other to the current reversal, you have grown up. Freedom is so lovely, you have seized it. Xiaoqing blinked. Sisters, you have grown up well. From the vague medical condition to the sweet wife of Haoman, we have witnessed it. Zihao stopped Qing with affectionate eyes. Miss Doctor, thank you for breaking the deadlock. The empire is stable, and our future is stable. Qing leaned in him, and her heart was as quiet as a warm current. From the hospital's retreat, to the embarrassment of the game, the romance of the scene, the confession of the private aircraft, and to the reversal of the joint force today, I am no longer the girl who escaped. The golden finger not only diagnosed the condition, but also diagnosed my heart, freedom and true love. We should be brave enough to fight for it. After the reverse was completed, she felt like she was reborn, and the world was wide and sweet. Yeling suggested, go home and have fun. Tomorrow, the wedding will be prepared. The aunt will help you choose the wedding, and Qing is responsible for the entertainment part. The old man from the mainland said that the simple ceremony will be held in 1 month. Qing is excited, okay. The seaside wedding. It's romantic. Zihao pointed his head and kissed Qing's sides. I heard you, my wife. From now on, there will be only happiness, no thoughts. The 4 of them got on the car and drove to their home in the night. The lights are warm and the future is like the stars shining. The sunny ones smile with their eyes closed and everything is full. The central park of sunshine is filled with green grass, and the flowers arched in the slightest wind. The air is filled with the sweet fragrance of roses and jasmine, mixed with the smoke from the barbecue far away. The wedding venue was very popular, with the white tents and guests gathering, business partners of the Empire Group, medical colleagues of the hospital, and celebrity Guanmi from the entertainment industry, all of them were presented to the event. The string quartet plays the lightweight wares, and the children chase butterflies on the lawn, and their laughter is as crisp as a bell. Today is the grand wedding of Zihao and Wei Qing. After the crisis a month ago was resolved, everything was as full as fairy tales. Yeling stood beside the arch, wearing a blue cheongsam, holding a flowery robe in her hand, her eyes were full of pride. She took Lin Xiaoqing's arm and said in a low voice, Xiaoqing, look at this scene. Auntie's heart has been clear. Qingqing has been stubborn since she was young, and her mother always wants to arrange for her to be stable, but she didn't expect that she would make a living by herself. Now she is marrying Zihao. Haoman is not a shackle, but a wing. Xiaoqing was wearing a red gift suit, with long hair, and blinked and smiled in a blink of an eye. Auntie, you don't worry. Qingqing's golden finger saved the empire, and the live broadcast of my film also helped a lot. Now the hot search is full of genius doctors, and the fans are jealous of them. Sisters witness happiness, this is our victory. The two smiled at each other, and Yeling gave Xiaoqing a rose. Thank you, it's always Qingqing. Thank you as a bridesmaid, thank you for your hard work. The music suddenly turned into a serious wedding march. The guest stood up and his eyes turned to the flower path. Qing walked upright with her father's hand in her hand. She mopped the white gauze on the floor, her beads shining like a galaxy, and the blue stone crocers and rings on the head made her look as handsome as a fairy. The sun shone on her face, and her heartbeat was like a deer ramming. Looking back on the unexpected encounter from the hospital emergency clinic, the awkward interaction at the restaurant, the casual chat and romance at the scene, and the confession of a private aircraft, every step is like a wire of life, forming this happy network. A warm current surged in her heart. From then on, I always escaped under pressure, and now, I hugged bravely, and my true love of freedom finally got it. Zihao stood under the arch, with an erect pen, a sturdy head, her deep eyes locked her, and a familiar domineering smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. He stretched out his hand and his father handed him to Qing. At that moment, his palms touched each other, as hot as the current. Miss Doctor, you are as beautiful as a dream today. Zihao said in a low voice, only she could hear the sound. Qing smiled and shook his hand back, no, husband. Today, we are full. The pastor read the oath, and Feng Ke held his breath. Yeling and Xiaoqing wiped the scrubbing off the stage. Zihao's voice was determined. Su Qing, Zihao, since the day of medical treatment, I have vowed to protect you for the rest of your life. Regardless of the rain in Haoman, my love for freedom will never fade away. Qing's eyes were wet. Zihao, I agree. From your domineeringness to your current gentleness, I protect us with my golden fingers and accompany you for the rest of my life. The rings exchanged, the kiss fell, and the whole scene burst into sounds. Yu Zhentian stood up, patted his son's shoulder, and his eyes turned from iron blood to gentleness. Xiao Su, the family owes you too much. Last meeting, you saved Mrs. Lu with golden fingers, and now you have stabilized the empire again. From now on, you are the mistress of the family. You have no regrets. Mrs. Lu also walked forward and walked up to a jade pendant. Child, welcome. Your medical care is amazing. The family is healthy, starting from you. The refreshing confession made Qing feel warm. She smiled and touched the rush of Jintian. Her golden fingers instantly activated. The old man's heart was aging and had no major weakness, but it needed to be replenished. She said in a low voice, Dad, your sensation is stable, but eat more fruits and stay up late. I will help you to open a regulatory regime. The family is healthy, I will pay attention to it. Xu Jintian was stunned and laughed immediately. Good son-in-law, good daughter-in-law. There are you in the empire, and there will be someone later. The guest of Mr. Ban raised his mouth and shouted, Sister Qingqing, you are full of fame. We protect the family with golden fingers, and the rich door is sweet and rewarding. Yeling wiped, Child, mother has witnessed it, your changes are so proud. The wedding banquet was held at a hot spot, with long tables on the lawn filled with fresh seafood, dragon ball plates, fragrant trunk towers, fragrant snouts. Zihao held Qing toast, and the guests held a cup. Congratulations to President Lu and Dr. Su. Sweetness will last forever. Old Li brought the wine glass and poured over. Xiaoshou, the hospital has promoted you to deputy director, the Imperial Medical Center has been built, you will be the chief. The job is reversed, love is blessed, it is a blessing. Qingqing smiled and said, Thank you everyone. Save Zihao from the rescue. From that day on, everything changed. Now, I am not just a doctor, but a wife and a family member. Xiaoqing pulled Yeling into the dance floor, and the two of them smiled and said, Auntie, come here. Qingqing's free love, let's have a chat together. Yeling pointed her head and walked quickly, okay. Mom was wrong before, but now she just wants to see you happiness. As night fell, the guests dispersed. Zihao and Feng Qing changed into light clothes and boarded their private aircraft. The engine growled, the lights inside the engine were soft, the sand was filled with rose petals, and the lavender fragrance was in the air. The aircraft took off, and the lights in City S were floating away, and the clouds wrapped them like cotton. Zihao poured 2 cups of fragrant rice, and the bubbles were shattered. He pulled Fengqing to sit down and rolled in, Madam, I went to Mardu in the honeymoon, and the sea was blue sky, no one was disturbed. Recalling our love journey, it started from the rainy night in the hospital. Fengqing leaned on his shoulder, took a sip of wine, and slid over her throat. Well, you drove that day. I diagnosed it at a glance, saving your life. Unexpectedly, from the vague medical condition to the embarrassing encounter in the restaurant, you domineeringly protect me and resolve the pressure of my mother. The casual chat on the scene, the sunny matchup, we reveal our worries. On the private plane, you propose on your knees, romantic and heartwarming. Now, the wedding is full and the life of a luxurious house is so sweet. Zihao lowered his head and kissed her hair, his voice was low and magnetic. Yong Qing, do you know? In the past, I thought that the empire was everything, and domineering and short-lived are habits. But when I meet you, I will be gentle. In crisis, your golden finger not only saves the family, but also saves my heart. I will always be your backing. I will give you freedom, pursue your medical dream, and the Empire Medical Center is with you. His words were like a warm current, and her eyes were slightly wet, and she turned to him, and she bent her hands on her ring. Zihao, thank you. From doctor to wife, I changed. In the past, the family was depleted and the pressure of the workplace made me like a machine, pursuing freedom and hesitation. Now, with you, mother, Xiaoqing, I am brave. The golden fingers diagnosed not only the condition, but my heart. I really love to keep me intact. I have no regrets when I go back to the Haomen. The plane was cruising smoothly, the stars outside the porthole were flashing, the two of them kissed each other, their lips were dependent on each other, and they were as sweet as honey melted. Zihao gently scrubbed her back. 2 weeks of honeymoon, I took a walk around the sea, watched the corals, and forgot everything. After returning, we built a family, children and business, and planned together. Qingqing was soaked, and my heart was filled with satisfaction. From the embarrassment of being close to the embrace of being close to the current embrace, I grabbed my own happiness. The growth of the spine is clear, no longer evades pressure, but uses love to transform into force. The pursuit of freedom is not an end, but a new beginning. 2 weeks later, the honeymoon ended and the aircraft landed at the S-City airport. Xiaoqing and Yeling were waiting in the precious passage early. Xiaoqing shook the ball. Sister Qing, brother-in-law. The honeymoon photo has exploded, and the fans on the film are all over the screen. Now, you are the sweet CP ceiling. Yeling hugged Qing and smiled. Child, mother, see that you are beautiful and happy, I write it on her face. I often go home in the future. Auntie learns to be a seafood dish and give you body. Zihao smiled and stopped Qing. Auntie, Xiaoqing, thank you for your testimony. Haomen life, from now on, is sweet and unobstructed. The car drove to the new home, a villa on the seaside, and the waves hit the shore outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. Qing stood on the platform, her hair was blowing and she turned to look at Zihao. Husband, our empire has been built. Zihao took her from behind and kissed her. Yes, madam. The sweetness of her life will never end. The sun was filled with the sea, and the golden light was shining like their future. Qing closed her eyes and smiled, reflecting in her heart, from the loneliness of a genius doctor to the warmth of her wife, I finally realized that growth is not just a single fight, but a fight with a lover. Freedom is truly love, and when you are overwhelmed, there is no regret or worry. Number of words, 1248.